mind-expanding sundown sporting discourse for witches, kebab van owners...
You want some chilli sauce with that?
...and washed-up burglars too fat to fit through your cat flap.
You great fat thieving lumper lad!
Cult listening worth staying awake for. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll read that again. Oh no, I was right the first time. The two mics on Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
I've never had an egg and I've never had a kebab. I never will.
You eat cake, don't you?
Sometimes. A bit of lemon drizzle.
Yeah, it's got egg in it.
Well, it's simulated egg.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time with the two mics. Thanks very much indeed to Andy Goldstein and Jason Cundy for the Sports Bar. It's time to say a very good morning for the start of the week here on the two mics on Talk Sport with Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. And a couple of issues there, please, in your introduction.
Yes.
First of all, my predictions weren't way off at all.
Well, they were.
No, they weren't. No.
Did Rory McIlroy win the Open?
I said he'd get a 64. What did he get in his last round?
You said he'd get 64 on the Friday.
I said he'd get a 64. What did he get in his last round?
He got a 64 in his last round.
Thank you very much indeed.
But
My
you said
God,
he was
a
going to
straight
win.
answer.
You said he was going to win the US Open.
A straight answer from a man who's as
know who else?
crooked as
Do you know
the
who
stick
else?
that's carried
Do you
round
know-
by the diminishing band of shepherds that we have in this country.
Do you know? Do you know who else you said was going to win the US Open?
Well, all I said Colin Montgomery was in the best form of his life and felt that he had a good opportunity. I didn't say he was going to win it.
Do you know where he came?
I know where he came. He came 67th.
64th, actually.
64th. Yeah, well, that's not a bad return, I
Not
think,
a bad return.
Considering it's
63 players were better than him.
You know, it is one of the great golf competitions in the world,
That's
and you're
more than
lucky
one
to
of
even
those,
start, let alone finish 64th. I mean, he got past the cut.
Yeah, he did, which is more than Tiger Woods did, of course.
Well,
but
that's
we
true.
could have told you that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then let's go moving on then to the under-21s, right? The team that was being stewarded by a no-hoper, a man who had no business running a football team, a man who seemed to be able to demotivate the players who played so well for their clubs that he should have no business running an England under-21 team.
Right, but look at it this way. If I hadn't come in heavily on the criticism of England's first performance in that tournament, do you think they'd have been able to motivate themselves to pull it out the bag 6 minutes from time, get a stunning goal from young Lingard past a goalkeeper who's floundering?
Who's now injured, by the way.
Floundering and grasping at fresh air, if they hadn't had the sort of treatment that I gave them in response to their pathetic attempts in their first game.
Right.
I take responsibility.
So you think that somehow was in response to your rant about Gareth Southgate?
I take responsibility for remotivating the team to do what they did in the second game, and if we get through in the third game...
Oh, it's we again now, is it?
Of course it's we.
No,
of course it's we. Then I believe that my motivatory powers have worked once again.
So what you're saying...
all this garbage from you.
So what you're saying is the players were remotivated, right? So it was the players who were to blame for the first miserable game then?
Well, no, I think it's a combination of the relationship between the manager and the players.
I see.
I've seen some footage of them out there training, and I noticed that when they're just sort of warming up, jogging at the start of training and all that, they're all running around together.
Yeah.
And Gareth Southgate's running around with them.
Yes.
Now, you can't run with the wolves and be the wolf keeper, if you see what I mean. You know, you've got to, if you understand what I'm saying.
What about the goalkeeper?
No. So what you've got to do is you've got to remove yourself. You can't be one of the boys and be the boss, which I think is what Gareth Southgate's trying a little bit too hard to do.
So you're not a fan of managers who put a tracksuit on and actually train with the players?
Well, yes, I am. If they're...
But not in this case.
If they're conducting training.
You seem very confused about this.
No, I'm not confused at all. When Davy Moyes first came to Everton, we were all astonished in his first game when he came out and he actually did the warm-up from, on the pitch as the manager in a tracksuit.
So that was okay?
That's all okay. But you
was
can't,
he a wolf keeper?
But but you can't get in amongst the boys and try to be one of them as well as being their boss. It does not work. But, look, I think they've learnt lessons. I think that's all we need to say. That's all we need to say.
Well, I think that's not good enough because given your attack on Gareth Southgate, I think either you
I didn't attack him.
Yes, you did. You were very vitriolic about Gareth Southgate and you said that he had no business running the team. So the idea that somehow now that you've motivated the players, why should he still now be running the team? What's different? Well,
because he's managed to pull the result out of the bag. Now, you see, what you don't understand, Mike, about leadership, what you understand about the character of life, the perils of competing and the pitfalls of...
you don't know anything about competing.
Of being competitive.
No, you don't believe in
when it goes wrong, the greatest test of anybody who's in the mix is to pick themselves up, dust themselves down, and get back in there and do it again.
Yeah.
Gareth Southgate has passed that test, and for that we have to take our hat off to him and say, well done.
Yeah, I think
which is exactly what I'm saying.
I'm glad you've now said that. Now, let's move on to your other great hero of the sporting world, Lewis Hamilton.
Yes.
Lewis Hamilton did not win at the weekend, unfortunately for him. Nico Rosberg won, and now we're being told that that's all going to go down to the wire. So Lewis Hamilton, who you said was going to win every single race this year, has failed to win, what, 2 at least?
You see, I'm increasingly finding it difficult to understand Formula 1 motor racing. I don't get it because, you know, the old adage was, whoever gets to the corner first wins the race.
Yeah.
Never has that been more true than in the one we've just seen at the Red Bull Ring, because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton couldn't get his clutch working, right?
Yeah.
And if you've got a dodgy clutch, you've got a big problem in motor racing,
massive problem,
as you know. So
how is your car, by the way? Has it been performing over the weekend?
Very well, thank you.
Why? Well, because last week it was up on stilts. It was having tyres replaced. You were having brake fluid replaced. The brakes were all spongy. You nearly crashed into the back of a car.
Brake fluid. It was the brake pads.
Well, the pads. The week has not gone by really since you've owned this car. Something has gone wrong with it. So I thought I'd better ask you if everything was all right.
My car's fine, thanks. How's those two old wrecks that you drive around in? Did
Actually,
one of them fall to bits over the weekend by any chance?
I did have a bit of an issue with the oil again. I have to say.
Oh, really? Yeah. So you're putting in more oil than you are fuel now.
It turns out I put a bit too much in.
Oh well, I told you had.
Yeah,
I told you.
You know, I didn't only by 1 litre only.
And has that now blown the engine?
No. I had to take a litre out.
How'd you do that?
I took it to a garage.
And they must have got under it, and they must have undone the sump.
Exactly right. That's exactly what they did.
And drained the oil out.
Yeah.
How did you know you'd put too much oil in?
Because when I was driving down on the motorway on Friday morning, this warning light came on saying high oil.
Oh, well, I knew that. I told you that.
You did not tell me that.
I did tell you that. When you told me you were putting oil in yourself, and I said, how much you put in?
Yeah.
And you said, until it went up the dipstick. Then I told you, well, I don't have a dipstick.
Right.
So
you don't need a dipstick.
I don't need a dipstick.
No, of course.
It's a
There's
sealed
good reason
engine.
for that.
It's a sealed engine. You don't need to do anything with it. It's a sealed modern
we're not going to go over
engine.
the same old
Not
ground.
an old wreck. But anyway...
All I know is it said that there was room for 10 litres of oil, right? And I put 5 in, so it should have only been halfway up.
No, you don't understand.
I didn't take account of the expansive nature of oil.
Exactly, you idiot. If it says 10 litres of oil, you don't put...
Why do they sell it? Why do they sell it in 5 litre containers?
No, you don't put 10 full litres in, you fool. I mean, that's over a gallon.
Well, I didn't put 10 litres in, I put 5 in.
Well, that's a gallon.
Is it?
5 litres is well over a gallon.
Yeah.
Well, litres nearly 2 pints.
Well, the thing takes 10.
God.
The thing takes 10.
I mean, listen, think of
it was a bit of a nervy ride all the way down to Sussex.
When I occasionally water my garden, if the housekeeper hasn't been around... What do you mean
you haven't got a garden?
I've just had it renovated,
You've got a roof terrace, right, which is covered in paving. It's not a garden.
No.
How do you call that a garden?
Because it's full of plants.
Has it got any grass in it?
No, but it's full of plants, you fool.
So you've got a garden with no grass in it.
It's full of plants.
Tremendous.
It's full of plants, and don't be pernickety. Now, what I was going to say was, I water my plants sometimes with my 7-litre watering can. Okay, it's my new one. I got it at Wilkinson's. What are you laughing at?
Surprised you could lift it.
Well, I tell you what, it's blinking heavy when you've got. And the most difficult thing is trying to get it above head height to water the hanging baskets because it's all over the place.
Well, you just use a hose for that.
I usually haven't got an outside tap.
You haven't got an outside tap. You've got a garden.
No, and I usually end up pouring it over my head, which is a bit of a problem. But
if you've got a long enough hose, you can just attach it to the tap in the kitchen and do it that way.
Yeah, that's flaky. I don't do that. Yeah. Anyway, what I'm saying is, so the weight of that, right, it's got 7 litres of water in it.
Yeah.
That plus another 3 litres is what you stuck in your engine.
No,
You're a complete idiot.
I put 5 litres
all right,
in.
5 litres then. Well,
so
I mean,
it's actually your watering can minus 2.
Yeah, but
I know your maths is not your strong point.
That is still very heavy, believe me. That's still very blinking heavy.
No, it wasn't that heavy.
And you're a complete idiot to do it now.
It's all sorted now, anyway.
Now, listen, on the
only problem is it cost
racing,
almost as much to take the oil out as it did to buy the oil to put in.
I bet it did, yeah. Which garage you take it to?
I took it to my local garage down in...
What, is that like a little garage?
What do you mean, like a little garage?
Well, I mean, it's not like Quick Fit or anything like that.
No,
just like
it's
a
just
little
an independent garage where they sell cars.
I'm surprised they did that for you.
They do MOTs.
How much do they charge you?
I'm a very good customer.
How much do they charge you?
34 quid. Half an hour's labour.
Oh, that's not bad, yeah.
I thought it was fair enough.
Now,
they thought it was very funny, actually.
Formula 1, the problems. I've been working on them over the weekend, okay?
Yeah, go on.
The cars are far too easy to drive now.
Are they?
I mean...
Well, how about the two that crashed into each other?
Well, one literally overtook over the top, didn't it? And that could have been a terrible accident, that.
I know.
That was very reminiscent to how Ayrton Senna lost his life when his head got knocked off, so to speak. You know, it's terrible. But what I was going to say was, they're too easy to drive... What are you laughing at?
I'm not laughing at anything.
He did nearly get his head knocked off.
No, he didn't.
He did. It was a wheel came off and went over the top of the car. I know, it was a terrible thing. It's shocking. Anyway, what I'm saying is they're too easy to drive because all they do is press buttons now.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Yeah.
There's not...
What you mean? Well, you want to have a proper gear stick and 3 pedals and everything else.
The clutch and all that's all on the steering wheel now. That's all went wrong. Yeah. So it's like driving it is literally
there's a reason for that, though, isn't there?
Like being on a Game Boy.
No, but there's a reason for that, because they want all sorts of clutch pedals and, all sorts of different accelerators and brakes and all that.
It's how fast your mind goes and not how brave you are going into corners and all that kind of stuff anymore, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, TV-wise, it's such a dull format now for 3 or 4 days, isn't it? All this practice and then...
Funny enough, I find the practice more exciting than the actual race.
Well, maybe.
Because you've got somebody doing something against the clock.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is...
I know that you just completely...
No. Do something against the clock. I heard what you said.
No, I know you heard it. But you didn't take any of it in.
I took it in. Now, the third thing is... The rules.
The time, by the way.
The rules are... Don't worry about the time when we're talking about important issues. The rules are far too complex now. We don't understand them. Spectators don't understand them. The only people who understand them are engineers with science technology degrees from UMIST, the University of in Manchester. University of Technology in Manchester.
What does it stand
University
for?
of Manchester Institute of Technology. That's it. UMIST. That's what it is, right? I don't know what you're laughing at. And the drivers...
but these are the guys who then call them into the pits when they're not supposed to.
Yeah, I know, that's right.
Even they get it wrong.
The other thing is, it's become an androgynous sport.
What?
Androgynous.
You mean androgynous?
Androgynous.
Yeah.
You can't tell one driver from the other.
Right.
They've got so many helmets and clothes
That's
on now.
not what androgynous means.
It does mean that.
No, it doesn't.
It does. It means
No,
they all
it
look the same.
No, it doesn't.
And they are. They're like machines. They're like robots, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, they can't talk through their, these bulky great helmets that they have, the bulky great suits
they have.
have.
Through them either, can they?
No, they can't, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, in the days of old Sterling Moss and all that, all he did was put a bit of a flat cap type helmet on, sit in an open top car. What are you laughing at?
He wore
sit
a
in the
crash
car,
helmet.
and he just went, and they were away. And I know Fangio and Sterling Moss gave you what I call entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
Men who were battling for the first curve, smashing their cars into each other, all that kind of stuff. That doesn't happen anymore.
No. Well, you have to look into light for a moment. When we come back, I'll tell you what the definition of androgyny is. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the Two Mics. You probably recognise that song. That was probably from one of your eras of music, wasn't it?
Would that be New Romantics?
No.
Okay.
It would not be the New Romantics.
No, I thought it was.
No.
Well,
it would be what other guess?
That would be Punk.
No,
Punk.
No, it wasn't Punk.
No, wouldn't it Punk?
That was Blur. A band called Blur.
Oh, that was Blur.
That was Blur.
Who was their lead singer?
Who was their lead singer?
Damon
Albarn.
Damon Albarn. I bumped into him once at Wembley.
Did you?
Yeah, a girl came rushing towards me, and I thought it was my lucky day. But I was standing next to Damon Albarn. He's a Chelsea fan, isn't he?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's a Chelsea fan. It was a Chelsea FA Cup final.
Yeah.
And these crowd of girls came screaming towards me, and I thought,
And you thought they were coming for you?
Yeah, I did, honestly.
That's typical of you, that is.
But I didn't realise I was standing next to Damon Albarn.
Were you in hospitality at the time?
Yeah, I was in the hospitality suite,
Anyway, that song, right, it's called Girls and Boys.
Girls and Boys, yeah. I didn't think it's very good, actually.
It's all about, it was the NME single of the year in 1994.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it's a bit average.
Anyway, it was all about androgyny.
Androgyny.
Which, as you said, that racing drivers will become androgynous, right?
Yeah, well, they do. You can't tell one from the other.
Well, that's not the definition.
All right, I know
Here's
what
the definition of androgyny.
Yeah, go on.
It's the combination of masculine and feminine characteristics.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Sexual ambiguity may be found in fashion, gender identity, sexual identity, or sexual lifestyle. It can also refer to biological intersex physicality, especially with regard to plant and human sexuality.
Yeah, indeed.
So it's got much to do with motor racing, making people kind of robotic.
Wouldn't that be a perfect description of the sort of guys in things like Duran Duran, who started putting on like eyelash stuff and all that
makeup?
And sort of painting their nails and all that kind of stuff. That was a bit androgynous.
It was a bit androgynous.
But I think they did it. I think they did it for the publicity and the effect. I don't think there's anything to do with the fact that they were confused about the sexuality.
It was a fashion. David Bowie, you would say, was kind of androgynous at various points in his career.
Yeah, I suppose he was. But Duran,
as was Mick Jagger.
Maybe. Well, you say that maybe, but I think. Do you know what? When I was at school, I studied the Restoration plays. Right. Why do you find my education amusing? Why do I do it?
Because which restoration plays did you study?
Well, there was one restoration play. No, this is a link to what you've just told me, you see, and I'm going to explain to you false androgyny, all right?
Home restoration.
No, I'm going to explain false androgyny to you. Now, one of these restoration plays was about a bloke who went round the City of London in the days when, the stock market was done in coffee bars and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And told everybody he'd had a terrible accident on the farm and he was now impotent. And for that reason, other men didn't mind leaving their wives with him when they went on business trips and all that kind of stuff.
No danger.
Absolutely, but in fact, it was all a ploy. He wasn't impotent at all. He was a mega Rogerer, and he found this as a way of accessing accessible women, if you see what I mean. And I think that the old Duran Duran thing was a bit like that. They're all pretending to be sort of androgynous and all that kind of stuff, but I've read some accounts of Duran Duran tours when up to 50 girls, groupies, were let into the hotel after the show and all that kind of stuff. And there were about 3 or 4 bouncers on the doors downstairs whose sole job was to make sure that only the best-looking girls were let into the hotels.
Well, I can tell you.
I mean, that's pretty disgraceful behaviour.
Do you remember that friend of ours who used to be the Rolling Stones manager?
Oh, yeah, Peter Rudge.
I wasn't going to give his name out.
No, Rudgy.
He ended up being the manager of Duran Duran.
Oh, did he?
For a while,
really?
On one of their comeback tours.
Right.
And he invited a bunch of us up to watch them. Right. Somewhere up in uptown in New York. Yes. And I went there, and as I arrived, they had already got onto the stage because we'd obviously got there a bit late. Yeah. And they were literally
because you've been drinking excessively.
Yeah, we'd been in Costello's.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you do. Yes. And we'd turned up there about 9:30. And they were literally carrying dozens of girls out who'd fainted down the front.
Really?
And as we were they were literally just straight into an ambulance, driving them off. There were dozens of them.
Incredible. I know the feeling, though.
Yeah. I didn't think they were fainting because of me, though.
And did you get to the after-show party?
I didn't go in the end, no, because I became slightly disillusioned. We sort of walked around for a bit, and I got approached by a couple of very, very young girls asking, if I could get them
Going
backstage.
to the party and all that.
And it was
dangerous territory, mate.
I didn't like it.
I know. But nevertheless, I think you would have. I thought, a man of your alley cat like moral base would have thought, wow, even if I get the 30th best looking girl who's admitted to the party tonight, that will be a bit of a stunner, probably better than any other girl I've met in my life before, because that's the sort of thing you look to the opportunity for.
You're projecting again, aren't you?
Eh?
You're projecting again.
What do you mean projecting?
Projecting is a term psychologists use.
What?
When you project your own inferiority complex onto somebody else and pretend that it's from them.
No, there's nothing about that. Listen, just because we've Yeah, go on.
I've got a list of the restoration comedies here.
Oh, yes.
I just wondered if I could jog your memory.
OK.
Could it have been The Mulberry Garden?
No, She Stoops to Conquer is the one I was thinking about.
She Stoops to Conquer.
Is that on your list?
It's not on my list.
Well, it should be.
There's one called The Country Wife.
Oh, The Country Wife. Could be.
Written by William Wycherley.
William Wycherley. Sounds familiar.
Premiered in
Sounds familiar.
1675.
But I think the one I was talking about was She Stoops to Conquer, seriously.
Yeah. And, She Stoops to Conquer I don't think is... I know She Stoops to Conquer, but I don't think that's one of them.
It's a well-known ploy to try and pretend that you have no interest in women, when in fact you have an overwhelming interest in women, but you try to lull into a sense of false security all the other males who are in competition with you. It's something that was born and brought out in the jungle, which Rudyard Kipling studied and became an expert on.
Really? OK. Excellent. Anyway, would you like to go back to what we were talking about before?
Well, just before we do, I'm just very proud of tomorrow morning's newspapers because they all feature the lead story on a talk with John Terry about Peter Cech.
Yes.
Terrific talk. Alan Brazil, obviously, and Danny Murphy this morning.
Murphy,
talking to John Terry and drawing this fantastic line out of him that he says, Peter Cech to Arsenal could be worth anything between 12 and 15 points next season. That's an incredible admission. I wonder how Jose Mourinho's taken that, by the way.
Well, I don't think he's very keen on it, actually. But the problem for Jose Mourinho is it wasn't his decision. I mean, he said this weeks ago that in the end...
Well, he said that to Al.
It'd be a decision made by the club, not by him.
When I went down to Cobham, to the Chelsea training centre, sat down there and talked to him, he said then I can't stop him going even to Arsenal.
Yeah.
So as a follow-on to that, we now find that not only that, but I mean, I don't think John Terry would have said that unless he'd had a discussion with, Jose Mourinho about it. So that is, as a terrific line.
I mean, there's already a lot of Chelsea fans on Twitter who are saying, well, if he's worth, 12 or 15 points to Arsenal, then, Chelsea better sign some decent players next season because otherwise they're going to be, maybe 10 points behind them.
Do we know actually how many points Chelsea Chelsea won more than Arsenal in the Premier League title race that's just finished?
Off the top of my head, I think it was probably about 10 or so.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, on John Terry's the basis, on John Terry's argument, Arsenal could overtake Chelsea next season with the benefit of having Peter Cech in goal, saving them 15 points.
Absolutely right.
That's a terrific...
By the way, speaking of being precise, I had a tweet from somebody who said that Rory McIlroy's final round was actually 66.
I thought it was 64. I thought it was 64.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't 64, it was 66.
If it was 66, it was very close to 64.
Very close.
So I think you have to agree. I wasn't a mile off, eh?
No, you weren't.
Right.
And She Stoops to Conquer
is
accompanied by Anglo-Irish author Oliver Goldsmith.
That's
first performed in London in 1773.
As I said, Restoration.
It's not a restoration comedy.
No, actually, it's a bit later.
Yeah, it is a bit later.
Restoration
But
was
never
a bit
mind.
early now. But I mean,
We've got the gist of it.
Going down the right line. Now, your boys yesterday, Father's Day. Tell me a bit about it, please.
Father's Day was very good.
Yeah, where'd you go?
Took some time, went to the beach.
Did
it
you?
was quite a nice day, actually.
No, you needed a bit of fresh air in your head, though, really, didn't you?
Well, no, I mean...
No, you did. No, you did.
Well, we started celebrating Father's Day actually on Friday, because in our family we believe in kind of elongating things like birthdays and Father's Days.
No, don't be ridiculous. You couldn't stop yourself cracking a bottle open on Friday afternoon.
Not true.
You were absolutely bladdered
that's not
by
true.
4 a.m. Sunday morning, which was in fact Father's Day.
Yeah, that part is true.
You hardly got up on Sunday to celebrate. What you did is you went and bought your sons a cheap trampoline.
A very expensive trampoline.
And you said to them, right, boys, just bounce up and down on this for a few hours. I need a lie down. I've been through the bladderation process for the last 12 hours.
Well, I mean, I could instead turn the mirror onto you and say, how many hours did you spend sitting on your own in Wetherspoons?
No, I didn't.
Wondering why you weren't a father and wishing that you were.
No, not at all. I got into the ambience and the spirit of a Father's Day, And
did you?
And I shared the joy and
I passed a place
celebrations of people.
I thought of you because I passed a Calvary, right?
Oh yes,
which I've never been
Nothing
in,
wrong with that.
but it's not that far away from where I live. And there was a big sign outside that said "A free pint for every father." And I thought of you standing in this Calvary, right, with all these dads with their free pints and you with nothing.
Oh dear, that's a bit harsh. Maybe I could have borrowed a child for the day and sort of said, "Oh look, my son, give me a free pint." In fact, I could have gone round the pub, just standing next to kids, a free pint.
A free pint, please.
Where's me free pint?
Seems like a bad idea.
I saw that happen at a lot of pubs.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of pubs had it on the board.
Well, we'll talk about this some more because
in Father's Day week,
because you have to look into the light for a moment.
Yeah.
It's terribly commercialised now. That's why I didn't want to go out too much, to be honest. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch.
I mean, he's a man of many talents, is John, so I quite appreciate that.
No, I knew you would.
Excellent.
Now, there's an awful lot of tweets coming in on all sorts of subjects, right? Some people are still pointing out to me that you have yet to receive your blue tick. Is there any update on that?
Well, I have my experts working on that one, and I feel it will be resolved this week. And there's absolutely no problem. Absolutely no problem. It's the complex nature of having to establish that people who don't deserve blue ticks don't get them. It's as simple as that.
Well, here's one from Ian who says at the two mics, Wolf Keeper?
Wolf Keeper,
I think we might need to get an explanation. No,
that's what I mean by that is, the sort of I meant like a shepherd, really. A bloke's who was a shepherd's written a book and it's become a bestseller. Right. I've told you about shepherds. They're dying out. There won't be any shepherds. No, not Rob Shepherd, for goodness sake. They're dying out because there won't be any shepherds in this country in about 30 years' time.
You've been banging on about this for ages.
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't make any difference whether there's any shepherds.
This shepherd, right, and I've read an extract from his book brilliantly.
What's it called?
I don't know actually what it's called, but it's a great extract. But this man is a Cambridge graduate who, instead of going into sort of science and technology, which he got his degree in, decided to go back and run his father's farm, and it's riveting. But I have told you, and I will have to say this again to raise the alarm, that once we lose shepherds in this country, we could all face starvation, because if you haven't got any shepherds, you haven't got any sheep.
That's not true.
And if you haven't got any sheep,
that's not true.
The land will overgrow.
No.
Sheep are nature's lawnmower. They keep fields down and all this kind of stuff.
I don't know if you ever watched Country File on
Country
TV.
File,
Did you ever watch that?
Yeah, it's good.
I imagine by Sunday afternoon, after all those free pints pretending to be somebody's dad, you
no,
probably
I didn't.
weren't actually watching anything on TV, right?
Lots of people give me free pints in pubs just because they like me being there.
Why would they?
Well, Well, they just do. They just do.
We give you a free pint to bugger off. If you don't mind by saying so.
I mean, that's a disgraceful way of interpreting it. No.
Anyway, on Country
People
File
like
last
having
night,
me around, yeah?
I discovered something about sheep which I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, go on.
There's a breed of sheep called Lincolnshire Longhairs or something
Lincolnshire
like that.
Longhairs. Longhorns, actually.
No, yeah, but they've got this really long hair. Have you seen it?
Yeah,
it's like a skirt. You can wear it down to the ground.
It is, yes.
It's extraordinary. A very beautiful animal.
So what did you learn about it?
Well, I didn't know they existed before. I never thought there was different forms of that kind of sheep that had that kind of wool.
I cannot believe the level of your ignorance about the world that, exists around you.
Well, I'm not a sheep expert.
No, but you live down in the country now. You're supposed to take a bit of interest in the environment.
I've never seen sheep like that before.
When I went to live on the coast, I found out all about the coast. Coastal erosion, shipping lanes, shipping navigation, the Isle of Wight and where it all came from and all that kind of stuff.
On the coast,
no, I don't think so. I don't think you need to do that. So when you move into your environment in the country, you should learn a bit more about country ways.
Yeah.
Do you know, for instance, how to trap a rabbit or something like that?
How to trap a rabbit?
Or whatever they do, do they trap rabbits?
Well,
I think they do.
Trap a rabbit.
I don't know, but apparently that's something that you learn.
There are hundreds of rabbits that live all around me. Why would I want to trap one of them?
Well, because I thought you told me that they were gnawing through your vegetables or something.
No, they weren't. I never told you that. That must have been one of your nightmares.
Oh, no, I don't think so. And I just...
do you know how to trap a rabbit?
No, of course I don't. But, what I'm saying is, remember our old mate Reese, who lives down in the West Country, Alan Reese, and, he's a...
he was into all that kind of gamekeeping.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but he wasn't until he got there. He was a city boy, came from the Rhondda Valley, but that was when he was very young, and then moved to London, worked there. Yeah. Then went out to the West Country, and then, as you quite rightly say...
I think he always had a penchant for it, though.
No, he actually morphed into the country squire type thing.
Yeah.
And he'd take his dog walking with a whistle and all that kind of stuff.
He was more of a poacher than a gamekeeper.
Yeah, he was more of a poacher than a gamekeeper. But his best mate was the.
Oh yeah, but he was always getting deliveries of things like pheasants to hang
that's
and
right.
stuff like that.
That's
and there was a bit of that. Well, Wiltshire was a bit like that when I lived in Wiltshire.
Well, that's where he lived.
Yeah, I know.
Wiltshire, so I'm not sure.
But Sussex is not really like that.
His best mate was the river warden, so he knew all about the fish and where they went and all that kind of stuff, how to catch them. He taught his little boy Harry all about the country ways. Yeah. I saw Harry once with a sheepdog rounding up sheep, and that's how much he got into it.
Yeah,
well, it didn't do him much good because Harry went on to Oxford University and became a very successful publisher. He didn't do shepherdry. No, he did. I think he did. Oh, I know he did. He did classics, classic languages. Became an expert in Latin and ancient Greek.
Oh, there you go. That would be useful.
Yeah, very useful if you go to ancient Greece. But,
well, I'm not sure there's going to be any part of Greece, ancient or otherwise.
No, exactly.
Left. By the way,
exactly. Does Greece still exist as a member of the EU?
By the time this show finishes, Greece might have ceased to exist altogether.
I totally agree.
I keep seeing that guy who's the head of Greece now. The sort of the communist,
macho sort of fella.
Yeah, the communist guy, smiling a lot and shaking hands with a lot of people.
That's right.
I had a press conference last night with the EU people, and they wouldn't answer any questions.
No, I know. But if you read the accounts of people who now go to Greece or live in Greece, there's and you shouldn't be laughing, by the way. It's not funny at all, but it's something that we have to keep an eye on so it doesn't spread throughout the European Union. But you've got people in food queues which are half a mile long and all this kind of stuff. The economy is completely knackered in Greece. It is.
Except that last night they said, more or less, we have got an agreement now for us to get out of this debt that we're in, right? But did you see what the agreement was? They've decided that they're going to up the VAT on a load of different things. Apparently, if you live on one of the islands, they have a 30% discount on VAT, so basically nobody pays it at all. Right? The next thing is that they're going to stop people retiring early. I mean, it's all pie in the sky. It's all nonsense. Not going to make any money at all. And they're like, we will raise $5 billion a year from increasing the VAT. We will raise a further $10 billion a year by telling people not to retire. And the people are going, well, we can't do any of this.
That's how we're going to cut pensions and save billions. Almost everybody in Greece gets a pension in one form or another. I years ago, when I was in Greece, I don't know what I was doing there, I was in Athens or something, I remember, one of the locals there took me on a little tour around the sort of Athens equivalent of Kensington, or Mayfair or something like that. And all the houses had huge, great gates and all this kind of stuff. And I said, a lot of security around here. I said, is there a big crime problem? He said, oh, no. He said, that's just to keep the tax inspectors out. Seriously. I said, what do you mean?
Well,
he said, none of these people have ever paid any income tax. He said, they don't. He said, and when the income tax inspectors come, they bang on the door, nobody opens it, they just go away. And that's the way the Greek economy was running.
That is the Mo Farah routine.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, no, but I mean, well, do you remember
I'm not sure they stayed for an hour.
No.
Rang the bell 12 times.
When things started going wrong, all these very wealthy Greek people just moved to London.
No, they just got on their boats and sailed out of whatever that harbour is next to Athens. Piraeus, that's the one, yeah, well done.
Now, Frazzle says this, the two mics. Porky's in a very literary mood tonight. He must be trying to impress a married woman he met at a book club. Hashtag sex victim.
A book club? I haven't been to a book club lately.
No? Have you ever been to a book club?
No, not really. But
not really?
What's the definition of a book club? That's what you've got to ask yourself.
Well, usually it's called a book club.
Have you ever been to one of these Hay on Wye festivals or anything like that?
Well, like the Hay on Wye festival?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I mean, yeah.
No.
Well, there's others, isn't there? That's not the only book festival in Britain, is it?
No, but it's the main one, I think.
I think it's the only one I know of, anyway. I think there's another one around here somewhere.
I'm surprised, having written so many books, you haven't been invited to address them.
Well, you wouldn't know about writing best-selling books. You keep going on about all these texts you've written.
In tent number 1, we've got Melvin Bragg. In tent number 2, Stephen Fry.
Well, funny enough you say that.
Tent number 3,
Mike
Porky Parry.
Funny enough you should say that. One year at Cheltenham Races, Mr. Brazil and I were invited to a book signing somewhere near the ring, which is where they parade the horses before the race and all that kind of stuff. And this is a true story. And so our publisher put up their little tent there, Mike Parry and Alan Brazil and all that to sign this book, which had nothing to do with racing whatsoever.
Of course.
But it was called There's an Awful Lot of Bubbly in Brazil, so it was really about the frolicsome...
Wasn't that the one about the one that opens in Verbier?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the inky black sky.
Yeah.
And
the snow as white as a tin of Dulux paint.
And like 30 or 40 yards away, right, there was another little tent put up by another publishing house to publicise the book of an extremely well-known jockey,
right?
Who had, I think it was his last Cheltenham, and he was retiring. He'd written his book and all that.
Yeah.
And the queue to our tent was about 30 yards long, and the queue to his tent didn't exist. No, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true, and that's
he must really like you guys then.
Well, they must like us indeed. The only problem is, of course, that Al turned up late as usual for the book signing, and the race had started and all that kind of stuff, and people started. It was a bit Greek style. Started rioting a bit because they were getting their books for like £18.99 or something, but the only signature in them was mine, and they found this very unsatisfactory indeed.
I'm not surprised.
I'll have to come down and sort of chase them round Cheltenham, re-signing the books.
Now, I've got a few here to read out. Steve says, Duran are big fans of Bowie and Roxy music, hence the glam rock image and the makeup.
I'm sure.
Didn't do them any harm with the ladies.
I'm sure
and Nicholas says, I think the word Mike Parry's looking for is homogenous.
Homogenous, that's the one.
Rather than androgynous.
I thought homogenous had something to do with pasteurised milk, doesn't it?
Well, that's homogenised.
Well, the same thing then, isn't it?
Well, not entirely.
Well, I think it is. It's
William
almost...
says this. Did Porky get his new motivational skills from the druids at Stonehenge on Sunday morning during the summer
what a
solstice?
bunch of old deadbeats. What a bunch of old deadbeats.
Why?
I was going to talk to you about. Did you see them?
No.
All these, really poorly dressed people wandering around one of the world's great monuments.
Well, no, because for them it's a place of worship.
No. Look, druids fine.
I used to see them every year.
Druids are fine. Druids are fine. They're actually a religion. In fact, Ken Barlow's a druid.
Is he?
Isn't that amazing? Ken Barlow's a... What are you laughing at? Why can't he be a druid?
All I can think about is what you said about Tracy last week, which I'm not going to repeat.
Oh, no. That was taken completely out of context, as usual. Never really made fun of it.
It was too risque to make Clips of the Week, but it made the Clips of the Week on the podcast.
Oh, did it? Okay, yeah, right. Well, these things happen. I mean, the expression which I used was in one context.
You don't have to say it again.
No, exactly. But anyway, what I was going to say was... So I don't mind the Druids because they're an officially recognised body of worshippers.
Yeah.
But it's all the old, all the scruffs, all the old,
what Druids? They're also
druids. Hippies and
well, they're also druids.
No, they're not Druids. They're not. They're all these guys who live in tepees in remote parts of Wales and claim to be self-sufficient, but take one trip a week away from the tepe down to the local social security office to draw the dole money. That's
you know this, do you?
Yeah, I do know this. Right. This is how independent they are. Okay. We're independent as long as the state keeps supporting our independent lives.
Yes.
Okay, we're self-sufficient. We grow our own vegetables, but we buy the seeds with the Social Security money down at Morrison's.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
He is Mike Porky Parry. I'm Mike Graham. We are the two Mikes.
Oh, you'll never leave me. Please, will you direct me in the right way?
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. You'll recognise that as a Queen song, won't you?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Now, that's about Mike, because I was talking to you in the break there. I was studying some child psychology reports over the weekend.
Were you?
While you were getting completely
as a sort of
bladdered.
Father's Day scenario.
Well, sort of thing, sort of thing.
To try and understand children.
Well, I do understand children, I think, pretty well. And
they don't understand you, I think.
Sorry?
They don't understand you, though.
No, I think they do. I think I
Did you
think
see that picture, by the way, that was drawn of you?
Yes, it was very good.
Out. Brilliant. By some guy's 8-year-old son.
8-year-old son. It was very good. Thank you very much
quite
indeed.
A few people pointed out the 8-year-old son was clearly very alert and attentive.
Pretty astute.
Because he drew you holding a glass of wine in your hand.
Did he? Well, I didn't see that so much, but I thought it was very good effort. Thank you very much indeed. What was the chap's name?
I can't remember.
All right, we'll find it, but thanks very much indeed. That was very good of you. Also, thank you to our listener, who I think is also a showbiz reporter, one of our listeners.
Hopefully one of them.
One of the millions. Who is also, I think, a showbiz reporter on the Manchester Evening News.
Yeah.
Who put a little piece in the paper last week saying the two mics are coming to Salford Quays, to the Lowry, and that got a pretty wide circulation. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, it was very kind.
Now then, what I was going to tell you about...
Let me just tell you about this from Adrian, who's tweeted. He says 30 minutes in and Porky hasn't got anything right yet.
What do you mean? I've got everything right.
Well, you've got nothing right.
What do you mean? What
a lot of
about
other
wrong?
people have pointed out there was no other car involved in Ayrton Senna's crash, which is true, because he crashed into a wall.
Hit a wall,
He hit
that's
a wall,
right.
Yeah, but there was no other car involved there.
No, the wheel on his own car came off the front of the car and rolled over his helmet. I mean, that's what injured him so badly.
Right.
It was a terrible thing.
Okay.
So I got that right. Now then, what I was going to talk to you about, you're mockingly saying I stand around in pubs next to kids so I can pretend to the people behind the bar, oh, he's my son, give me a free pint of beer.
Well, I just could imagine the scene.
Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. We're not ever done that. But let me tell you this. Reading about these child psychology things, you as a good father, if you are a good father, it having just been Father's Day, you should be constructively and academically teaching your children how to lie.
Well, children learn how to lie.
No, how to lie efficiently at a young age. You see what I mean?
Is that what happened to you?
No.
Well, because you're very good at it.
No,
actually,
that's
you're
rubbish.
not very good at it.
No, I don't lie. I try not to lie.
You try not to lie, but when you do lie, you're actually not very good at it.
You see, when kids, what kids have to learn...
Like last Thursday, for example, I don't want to dwell on it too long,
Right.
because obviously it's quite painful for me to discover the lengths to which you were going to go last Thursday to try and cheat in the quiz.
What?
Because we haven't yet got it. I mean, I had a tweet from a guy over the weekend who said he was starting to feel guilty.
Yes.
Because he had tweeted you some of the answers.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
No, rubbish.
But when
no.
you were discovered and you were making out that you hadn't done anything wrong, I could tell that you were lying because you're not very good at it.
No. I have no desires to become a good liar at all. But what I'm talking about children is this: if your little boy, how old's your boys now?
8 and 10.
8 and 10. So your little boy's 8, goes to a birthday party, right? And he gives his mate a present, which you and your partner in life have bought and wrapped up and all that. If then the kid opens it and says, "Oh, I don't like this," that's bad.
Yeah.
That will ruin a relationship for life, okay?
Yeah. Unfortunately, children do tend to do those
Well,
kind of things.
no, you've got to teach your children, the psychology of lying is that when you open that present, it doesn't matter what it is, you say to your little friend, "That's fantastic, thank you very much indeed."
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could ruin your life. You really could,
Well, the other way around doing that, which is what most people now do, is they don't let the kids open the presents. You go to a party, you give the present to the parent, right, or you give them to the child who then gives it to the parent, and they open them all later.
Yeah.
And that makes. Why is that funny?
No, sorry. Say that again.
Why is that funny?
Say that again.
Well, if you go to the party, whether it's at somebody's house or another venue, right?
Yeah.
You hand the present to the kid,
right,
whose birthday it is, right?
Yeah.
Who then has it taken off him immediately by the parent.
What? You then open it to find out if it's any good or not?
No. They open it later.
Oh, I see.
So what I'm saying is it avoids anybody opening a present and going,
I see.
That's not much of a present.
So what? They open it after the party?
Yeah, after
just
the party,
in case it's a bum present.
Yeah, no, they open them all later.
Do you know what? As a kid,
It's a great idea.
It is quite a good idea, that. But as a kid, we used to get terribly embarrassed because my dad worked for Addis.
Yeah. Addis, the brush company.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And,
well, just as well you never ended up working for Addis, the editor.
Well, maybe
whose family owned that whole company.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
But the thing was, I think my parents must have been struggling financially at the time.
Yeah.
But the only thing we ever used to take to children's parties to give away as a present was a bath brush. or
something for the stock.
No,
from the back of the car.
a bath brush, right? Or something like something ridiculous, like a tray in which you put all your cutlery, or something like that for an 8-year-old kid.
Something that they actually sold.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, it's terrible.
I'm going to talk more about.
Or I tell you what, or a like a washing line.
Yeah.
We used to pretend it was a skipping rope. It's terrible.
So the Parry crime family, you didn't want to get presents for them. Did you see that story at the weekend about Duncan Bannatyne, by the way?
Oh, yes.
The woman
it's terrible.
And I mean, he will figure later, possibly, in winners and losers, but I don't want to give too much away.
Yes.
But one of the things that I found amazing was the girl who's been jilted by him.
Yes.
Who was kissing and telling to the Mail on
The
Sunday.
first one, the blonde-haired, tall, light, blonde-haired girl.
From Cheshire.
Very attractive,
And former beauty queen, I think.
That's right. Miss Great Britain, former Miss Great Britain.
Was really annoyed because when he gave her a present, he gave her like a load of stuff from Bannatyne's spa.
Worth £20
Worth 20 quid.
Wrapped in a Morrison's carrier bag.
But the stuff that he sells at his own hotels.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he actually even go and buy it.
I know, isn't that terrible?
Very cheap.
Well, it's a shocking allegation. Of course, he's kicked back all the allegations and said that, I couldn't do that, that's too mean, I wouldn't do it. What was the other allegation that he completely knocked out the door? Oh, yeah, he said he didn't wrap it up in a Morrison's bag and all, I've got more style than that, yeah. But he's now actually got himself another very young and attractive girlfriend.
He has.
So good luck to him, that's all I can say.
I knew you would say that.
Now then, the thing about children who lie, right, it's not bad anymore. Now, this comes from the Journal of Experimental Child Psychology, which I'm keeping an eye on.
You read that often, do you?
Well, I do keep an eye on these things because I think I have to be up with the way things go in life.
Is it quarterly, this particular periodical?
Well, I don't know.
Every week?
I don't know. I just looked at the latest one, OK?
Right.
They're from, they're from the University of Sheffield in this country and the University of North Florida in America,
North Florida?
Yeah. And,
not exactly Harvard, is it? The University of North
Florida. Yeah, that's right, yeah. didn't Florida was a swamp until about, 120 years ago.
I know.
There were more hurricanes in Florida 120 years ago than there are now.
Really?
But nobody ever lived there, so they couldn't record them.
So it didn't matter?
No, it didn't matter, no. Honestly, it didn't matter if a few thousand trees went down. So what they say is the link between lying and verbal memory is present because good liars need good memories to be able to keep track of their lies.
That's why you're not a very good liar.
This is the point.
That's why you're not a very good liar, because you've got no memory.
That'd be ridiculous. No, actually, that does sometimes happen.
It does.
It does sometimes happen. You know what it used to happen? It used to happen to... when you go and see the doctor, and the doctor would say, Mr. Parry, how many units of alcohol are you drinking a week? Yeah. And you'd say...
Well, that's an immediate lie for you, isn't it?
Well, it's a lie for everybody. But I'd say, I was trying to work it out in my head, 2 pints a day. I said, 30.
Right.
30 units, yes, very bad, Mr. Parry. And then next time you go and see the doc, you completely forgot. Yeah. And so, Mr. Parry, I've cut down on drink. Oh, good. How many units of alcohol are you drinking a week? 50. And he'd say, what? And I'd say, oh, no, right. 15. 15, I think. It's, which was sort of half of 30. That's the way you used to get by. But do you agree with me? You've got to teach your children how to lie.
No, I don't.
I think you should.
Because I think
otherwise they're going to go backwards in life.
My father once said something to me which was very wise, and he said...
Oh, your father said something wise?
He did, yeah.
The mad old nutter.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. People get very upset when you refer to him as that.
Well, it's only a term of affection, really. But, I mean, you said he was a mad old nutter. Yeah,
no, I've never used those words. Yeah. No, but he said, you can spend your entire life telling children something, but they don't do what you say, they do what you do. And they watch you, and they see how you act, and they see how you deal with people, and they see how you operate in life, and that's what they learn from. They don't learn from anything you tell them. Yes. You can tell them as many things as you want. Say, don't tell lies, don't take drugs, don't go drinking, don't drive a car too fast. They will watch what you do, and then they will learn from it.
So the old adage, if don't do as I do what I say, is true then, is it?
No, it's not true.
No, but it should be. That's what I'm saying.
Well, no, yeah, but the point is they won't do what you say, but they will do what you do. That's how they learn.
Well, that means that...
So if their father is a congenital liar, they will be a congenital liar, and they'll be pretty good at it.
What about if their father's a congenital philanderer?
Yeah, well, there's a chance that they will either be the opposite of that, or they will be the same.
What do you mean there's a chance it'll be the opposite?
Well, because sometimes children react if they have a father...
Oh, you didn't say that. Oh, you've just altered the argument.
No, I haven't.
I've just pointed out that your two boys, aged 8 and 10, have got a serial philanderer for a father.
That's not true.
And that they could turn out that way.
That's not
true. But now you've changed the argument and say, they could be repulsed and revolted by my behaviour.
Well, it may come as a surprise to you.
You're not ashamed sometimes to go home to your boys for the week you've had in town.
It may come as a surprise to you that my children do not think that I'm a serial philanderer, because in fact I'm not. Okay.
Well, not in their eyes.
Not in their eyes. No, exactly.
What about your history?
So,
what about your history? One of these days they'll find out about your history.
And also the reason that there are two different reactions from children on two different subjects is because it's not, you're not looking at a computer screen. You're looking at a child who has emotions. I know you don't have them, but a child that has emotions and who treat things very, very differently.
Yes.
For example, Becky from New Zealand has sent this in. Fathers should be teaching their sons there are two ways to argue with a woman, and they are both wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. That makes common sense. It may not be logic, but it's certainly common sense. No, I tend to agree with that.
Did you ever get told anything by your father and then completely disregard it and do the complete opposite? You can't remember, can you?
I'm just trying to think. No.
Did he ever give you any advice?
Not really.
He never gave you advice?
No, not really.
He never gave you any sort of words to live by?
No, not really.
Really?
It was all about, kind of work hard at school and get yourself an education.
Oh, you didn't work hard at school, did you?
I did work quite hard,
No,
yeah.
you didn't. You cheated your way through school.
No, I didn't. No,
yes,
no.
you did.
No, I worked hard at school until I discovered beer and women.
Yeah.
And then I lost interest in working, to be honest, because it
but
was
you cut
better.
corners, basically.
Not really.
I would say you cut corners.
No, not
You've
really.
admitted that you
No.
cut corners.
I also found it more fulfilling in life to go out and work and earn money than to sit there reading books all the time.
Yeah.
Seriously. And at one stage I tried to buy an old banger of a car to run a taxi, but my father wouldn't have it if I was
run a
still living
taxi?
at home. Yeah, I was going to run a taxi business.
What age were you then?
About 18.
Blimey.
It was when I was doing my A-levels, and he said, no, you've got to study your A-levels. And I said, yeah, but at weekends, I can get the old banger out, stick a King Cab sign on the top, you know, which was like a plastic box with suckers that you stuck on the roof of the car.
Where'd you get that from?
I bought one.
Right. You just made one up then?
No. Bought one off another taxi driver.
Registered.
Well, yeah, of course you did, yeah, but I mean, it didn't matter in those days. You just stuck it on and just drove around, picking people up, and no, seriously, and charging them like 10 quid to go from A to B.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. No, I had insurance for my car. I had
but
insurance
not
for
to
my car.
carry people for carriage.
No, of course I didn't.
No.
But I didn't care about that. Nobody
No.
cared in those days.
Yeah, they did.
The rules were different.
People still went to prison in those days.
No, oh yeah, they did. Yeah, but not for that sort of crime. That wasn't really a crime.
No,
crimes.
not really a crime.
Crimes in those days were things like robbing banks and beating people up in the street and all that kind of stuff. All I was doing was providing a public service cheaply. I don't know what you're laughing at.
Unbelievable, the delusionary qualities of your history. Anyway, we've got loads more to do. We've got winners and losers coming up, so I hope you've got a few good ones. We've also got Steve Eubanks, who's a golfing author, coming up, because we'll get from him his take on this guy Jordan Spieth and whether he actually could win, all the majors. All about that. And also, of course, if you go and have a look at our website, the2mics.co.uk, you'll find out about a load more stuff, things that are going on as well, live shows, etc., etc. Now, did you see that big box outside, by the way, when you came in?
Yeah, is that a director's chair?
It is a director's chair.
Now, tell me about this director's chair. Where did you get this from?
How do you know it's a director's chair?
Because I went and looked at it and it said director's chair on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I wasn't expecting it, but there was a press screening of a movie called Entourage, which you've probably heard of.
Entourage?
Entourage.
What's the plot of that one?
Yeah, well, pardon?
What's the plot?
The plot?
Yeah.
Well, the plot is it's a kind of it's all about a celebrity and his life and his entourage. It's like if you had if you were a celebrity and you had an entourage following you around. You know when you go into a restaurant and you see Prince sitting there and he's surrounded by about 15
okay, I understand.
people.
I understand.
That's the entourage, and it's a TV show, right?
Sort of people who've got to take with us to Manchester on Saturday.
Well, we have a bit of an entourage,
but
but not really.
Right. Okay.
And basically, they've made it into a movie, right? So I went and saw the screening of it, and without being asked for it, they've sent me a director's chair.
That's
which I
very
thought was
nice.
rather nice.
It's got your name on the back.
It hasn't got my name on the back.
You know,
no.
like sort of like the director proper has on the name.
But I'm wondering if I should stitch my name into the back.
Well,
of
I
it.
think you should. Yeah, what are you going to do with it then?
Well, I don't know really, because it's quite a high chair. It's like sort of it's up above the level of a normal chair.
I think your boys would like it. It's a bit of a novelty at home.
Well, they might do, yeah. But I'm not sure where it would sit though.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
I'm sure you'll find somewhere. Very interesting. Why did they send it to you?
Well, because I was the person that they thought would be the most beneficial person to receive it.
But you didn't go to the screening.
Yes, I did go to the screening.
You went to the screening.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Are you sure you did?
Yes, I'm absolutely sure
Excellent.
I did.
That's good. I'm very glad that you fulfilled the obligation there.
No, you were the one that didn't go to the
people.
screening when we did. Funnily enough, Mark Wahlberg, the guy that we went to interview,
yes,
he's in Entourage.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, good. Is he good?
Well, of course he's good, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's
and it's
excellent.
based on his kind of life originally.
Excellent. Now, listen, I've been looking at the role of goalkeepers in the life of clubs because, of course, the biggest story featured on the back page of this morning's papers is the fact that John Terry said on this station on the Alan Brazil Breakfast Show that Czech could be worth up to 15 points to Arsenal.
I know. Yeah.
Right? Now, if you look back over the history, I've been doing the research in the break there.
Right.
How important are goalkeepers and how much do you have to go scouting around for a great goalkeeper? So, for instance...
What about a wolf keeper?
No. Goalkeepers. So, for instance, Neville Southall, Everton, was the greatest goalkeeper in the world at the time, during the mid-80s, definitely. He was bought, he was a one-time binman.
Binman?
He was a bin man. And he was bought from Bury for £150,000.
Amazing.
How about that?
Amazing. But when you say he was the best goalkeeper in the world at the time...
He was.
Who was he against? who would you have said was his contemporaries?
Well,
what about Dino Zoff? Wouldn't he have been around?
No, to be honest, Dino Zoff, I think, either came before or after.
Did he?
But Nev, I mean, in the mid-'80s, was the best goalkeeper in the world. Everybody accepted that, right? Played for Wales a record number of times. Now then, Ray Clements of Liverpool. Bill Shankly scouted Clements more than any other player he signed.
He came from Skegness or something?
No, he came from Scunthorpe. £18,000 paid to Scunthorpe in 1967, OK?
Yeah.
Clements won 5 league titles, 3 European Cups, 2 UEFA Cups.
Right.
Neville Southall won 2 league titles. Peter Shilton, of course, was bought by Brian Clough and became the bedrock of the Nottingham Forest team that were double European Cup winners.
Right.
Peter Schmeichel. Now, he's bought from Brøndby in 1991 for less than £500,000.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the other guy, going back to Arsenal, David Seaman.
Yeah.
Although he's quite expensive, he was signed for 1.3 million from QPR.
Yeah.
But you see, I don't understand why more managers don't realise that if you haven't got a good goalkeeper, the rest of the team is rendered worthless and useless.
Well, that's been one of the problems Arsenal have had over the course of several seasons now, isn't it? 'Cause
Indeed.
they haven't really had a goalkeeper they could rely on.
No.
Really, ever since David Seaman
Is
left.
Chesney their goalkeeper now?
Chesney still is one of their goalkeepers.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, he goes in and out, doesn't he? Blows hot and cold.
He does.
So now they've got Peter Cech, which is going to be great.
According to a chap called Matt Law, a very fine sports reporter in the Daily Telegraph, Roman Abramovich overruled Jose Mourinho and said, no, let Peter Cech go. He's been a great servant to this club. He should be allowed to go.
Really?
So, you know...
Well, it's also because he's got a year left on his contract, which presumably they thought they could get some money for him rather than no money for him.
Yeah, well, I suppose so. But anyway, he injects not only the fact that he's a great goalkeeper into the Arsenal team, but he injects, and this is something I think which John Terry said as well, the winning image, the winning thinking formula, you know what I mean? We can win these things because he's won so much at Chelsea. It's an intriguing move, isn't it?
It is an intriguing move.
And I think it's the most obvious example I can remember of a club giving away one of its great assets to one of its main rivals. Yeah. Would Sol Campbell have fallen into that category when he went from Spurs to Arsenal? Probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
probably.
I suppose so. Robbie Van Persie, when he went, even though it was only for one great
that's
year,
true.
when he went from Arsenal to
in
Manchester
the old
United.
days when I was growing up, it used to happen all the time. I don't know why, but for instance, Manchester United used to acquire Leeds players and vice versa. Yeah. Manchester United used to acquire Arsenal players. Yeah. So, for instance, they got
Eric Cantona and Rio Ferdinand came from Leeds.
No, Eric Cantona came from Sheffield Wednesday. Actually,
did he?
Funny enough, yeah, he was only spent one season at Sheffield Wednesday.
I thought he came from Leeds.
No, Sheffield Wednesday under Howard Wilkinson.
No, he definitely came from Leeds.
No, he didn't. No, he was at Sheffield Wednesday, honestly. He may have been at Leeds, but he came to United from Sheffield Wednesday, of that I'm sure.
Are you?
Now, the other thing is, for instance, Joe Jordan, Leeds United, Manchester United. Yeah. Frank Stapleton, Arsenal, Manchester United. Yeah. Players always seem to gravitate to Manchester United from their major rivals. Rio Ferdinand leads to Manchester United, yeah?
I'm told that Eric Cantona never played for Sheffield Wednesday.
Eric Cantona did play for Sheffield Wednesday.
Well,
he did.
I'm told he didn't.
Well, he did. I'm telling you he did. Right. So I don't care who's talking to you. I don't care who's giving you nonsense through your ear hole.
By the way,
I'm telling you he did.
Talking about Jose Mourinho, did you see him at the tennis all week?
No.
You didn't see the tennis, did you?
Yeah, I saw some tennis.
You didn't see any of the Andy Murray games? Or did you see Andy Murray winning Queens?
I saw some of it.
Did you know he won it for the 4th time?
Yeah,
He's only one of about 4 tennis players who've ever done that.
He won it in 11, 13, 15. No, I think he won it 10, 11, 13, 15.
Something like that.
Yeah, those are the years he won it. But of course, only one of those were preceded a Wimbledon triumph. Yeah. So let's hope that's going to happen. It's going to be an exciting summer because some of the ne'er-do-gooders might have to eat their own words in relation to the cricket.
What are you talking about?
The ne'er-do-gooders.
The ne'er-do-wells, you mean?
Ne'er-do-wells, that's right, the ne'er-do-wells.
Well, are you saying you're behind England's cricket team?
Of course.
Are you saying England are going to win the Ashes?
I'm not saying they're going to win the Ashes.
Have we got an alarm for the Porky
But
Jinx?
I'm saying that I think it's going to be a much, much closer battle than many of the ne'er-do... what do you call them? Ne'er-do-wells were barking on about at the start of this summer.
Something that was, I thought, a bit of a harbinger of perhaps things to come.
Harbinger? Yeah. What's that mean?
You don't like... Well, it's always a prediction, if you like.
Right, OK.
Or some kind of an omen, if you like. Well, apparently the Australians were practising with a bunch of school kids, from one of the top public schools in the country.
Is that right?
And quite a few of their batsmen got bowled out by some of these youngsters.
Is that right?
Who are nowhere near as good as, obviously, the English bowlers.
And how did that work?
What do you mean, how did it work?
Well, why did that happen? Why did they allow that to happen? What's the
Aussies were, are warming up for the Ashes, basically. The Aussies are warming up for the Ashes, and as part of this warm-up, they went to some school to sort of do a bit of an exhibition.
Yeah.
And some of the Aussie batsmen were bowled out by some of these kid bowlers, which is pretty extraordinary, really.
I find that
But
rather...
the reason I wanted to talk to you about Jose Mourinho was because apparently his favourite game to watch in the world is tennis.
Is it really?
And he spent most of the time most of last week sitting at Queen's on his own, surrounded by empty chairs. Now, what I didn't know was whether he'd bought a whole load of seats so that he could sit on his own without being troubled by anybody.
Keep the great unwashed away.
Or whether he hadn't brought his wife or any members of his family with him, or every time the camera kind of panned on him, there just happened to be nobody there. But he was always sitting on his own, with a very intense look on his face. And apparently he's become quite good friends with Andy Murray.
Oh, really?
And he's obviously, some of his successes rubbed off on Andy Murray.
Winning mentality.
The winning
and all
mentality
that.
works.
I mean, talking about that and talking about the summer of sport and all this kind of stuff, do you know it's going to be the coldest June ever that we've had?
Well, let me read you some tweets.
And I think it's brilliant. I love it. I love a cold June. I love summer rain. Kentucky rain keeps falling down.
Have you been on the extra medication?
No?
Mark says, Cantona never played for Sheffield Wednesday. He was at Leeds under Howard Wilkinson when he went to Manchester United.
No, he played for Sheffield Wednesday.
Mike says, Cantona never played for Sheffield. It was Leeds. #nutter.
I know he did play for Leeds, but he also played for Sheffield Wednesday.
Adam says, Porky's wrong again. Trevor Francis was at Sheffield Wednesday and he tried out for them, but he never signed them.
No, he did.
Glenn says, Cantona signed from Leeds. He never played for Wednesday.
I'm sure he did.
Cal says, Eric Cantona was offloaded to Manchester United by Kendall from Leeds for a reason that I can't read out. Porky's off his rocker. Cantona joined United from Leeds. Everybody says that he joined from Leeds.
Well, why did he live in Sheffield then?
Well, I don't know. It's near Leeds.
No, it's not. It's quite far away.
No, it's not that far away.
No. Leeds is in North Yorkshire and Sheffield is in South Yorkshire.
How far away would you say Leeds is from Sheffield?
30 miles.
You think that's a long way to go to work?
Yes, I do, yeah. Up down the M1.
How far away do you live from London?
Well, it depends which of my homes you're talking about.
Well, let's say the one from in Sutton. How far away is that?
That's, do you mean in Epsom, please? You're talking about Epsom Downs?
Well, Epsom, wherever. How far is Epsom?
That's about 12 miles.
And how far is Portsmouth?
The coast is about 90 miles.
Yeah.
And my Orwell Quay residence is about, from here...
Epsom to central London is 17.7 miles.
Well, it depends which part of Epsom you're talking about.
Well, which part of Epsom do you live in? Sutton?
Epsom Downs. No, you fool. No, Sutton's not in Epsom.
No, I know it's not. You said the time, by the way.
Yes, and by the way, I could tell you about a little liaison I had with a rather important man from that part of the world last Friday.
Liaison? Do tell us.
No,
I've got a couple of questions for you.
I don't think so. I think it must remain confidential.
Okay.
But shall we say, a lawmaker.
A lawmaker?
Who decided he wanted to get in touch and be of my acquaintance last Friday. Yes,
all right,
yes.
Okay, well, we'll hear more about that coming up. We are the two mics. This is Talk Sport.
He's pudding and saveloys. What next is the question? Rich gentlemen have his boys in digestion.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two mics. Yes, there will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. There is an absolute avalanche of tweets coming in, pointing out the error of your ways.
Yeah.
Here's one from Frazzle. I think Wednesday had the opportunity to sign Cantona, but thought he was a dud. #Decker and Beatles job. Here's one from Adam who says, wrong again, Porky. Leeds is in West Yorkshire. And Bantam Bouncer says that. Tell Porky Leeds is in West Yorkshire, not North Yorkshire. He's a total numpty tonight. He's getting everything wrong.
No, I'm not. No. It may be... The postal address may be West Yorkshire. Hang on, north, south, east, west. But it's in North Yorkshire. And the reason I say that is it's right at the top of the M1.
Yeah.
You can't go any further up the M1 than Leeds.
The M1 stops.
The M1 stops at Leeds.
Well, that doesn't mean that's the end of Yorkshire,
Yes, it does, yeah. There's nothing else in Yorkshire. After that, it's places like Middlesbrough, and they're in Teesside.
Yeah.
Right? I'm telling you, it's in North Yorkshire.
So you're telling me basically that the M1 stops at the end of Yorkshire?
The M1 stops at the top of Yorkshire.
Does it?
Right, and the top of Yorkshire is Leeds.
Okay.
It may be geographically inland a bit and called West, but I'm telling you, it's in North Yorkshire.
I see.
Anybody who disagrees with me is a geographical half-baked, frankly, because if you look at the map, that's what it tells you.
You at least concede that Derek Cantona never played for Sheffield Wednesday.
I think he did. I think in my head, I've got a picture of him in a Sheffield Wednesday shirt, blue and white shirt with black shorts. That's Sheffield Wednesday's colours, isn't it? So I think he did.
Well, a blue and white shirt with white shorts, no?
No, blue and white striped shirt with black shorts he used to play in. Listen, I want to talk to you about the latest restaurant craze, OK?
Yeah,
Because
go
you're
on.
out and about dining all the time and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what these guys in the city are doing now? And these are probably people who spend a lot more than £70 on a bottle of champagne, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, money to waste and all that. They go to 3 different restaurants for 3 different courses.
Yeah.
Now, if I was a restaurateur...
Well, good luck with that, because,
Well,
I mean, the traffic
yeah.
alone would presumably make that an all-day affair, wouldn't it?
Well, it says top chefs say British dining scene is now so casual that customers go to several different restaurants a night, as trendy venues offer only one or two dishes, and they're saying it's the start of the end of formal dining. So these guys compile into a restaurant, right, and so, you know, let's have a look at the menu. Oh, yeah, I think we'll have a few prawn cocktails. And when they finish, pay the bill and leave.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't think restaurants would allow that sort of thing to happen.
Well, I mean, I suppose as long as you're getting them for some of the money rather than none of the money, then that's a good thing, isn't it?
Well, I remember once going to a restaurant somewhere in Newcastle, right? We were all broke, and it was the early hours of the morning.
Yeah.
And, the bladderation trail all night. And... we only had enough money for soup and a roll. So we ordered 4 soups and a roll.
Yeah, well,
right?
4 soups and 1 roll.
No, 4 soups and 4 rolls.
Oh, okay.
And that came to the table.
Yeah.
But then, as we were halfway through that, the guy came back and said he wanted the rest of the order, and we have to admit we haven't got any money, and there's nothing else we can buy
Right.
because we're broke.
Oh, so what, you couldn't just order soup at the beginning and
No.
tell him that?
No,
you
no.
had to pretend that you were going to order something else?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Well, I
And-
suppose that's better than ordering food that you couldn't afford to pay for.
Well, then we got thrown out.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us finish the soup.
Really?
No,
That's
honestly.
not very nice,
yeah,
is it?
it's harsh. Have you ever been in a restaurant, Mike, and actually seen a crowd of guys do a runner from a table?
Yes.
It's a terrible thing.
Yeah, it is.
Shocking.
If worse than that, I was actually in a crowd of people that did a runner from the table, but I refused to go.
You went with them?
No, I didn't, no. I
Right.
stayed behind.
Well, did you then get footed for the
Yeah, I
foot the
did,
bill
yeah.
for
I
the
did.
whole lot?
Yeah.
This is terrible. Tell me
Yeah.
the circumstances.
Well,
Where was this?
This was a time when I was at university, actually.
Right.
And I come up to London to spend some time with my sister and her friends who were at university.
Yes.
And it wasn't just me that stayed behind, but there was about 10 of us.
Yeah.
And some of them were a bit sort of Hooray Henry types,
Yes.
which I didn't really like very much.
Right.
Also, I didn't really appreciate the way that they were kind of carrying on generally. And everyone was fairly drunk. And it was in Marylebone somewhere, I think, the Indian restaurant. And one by one, I could tell that they were kind of getting ready to do this, mass runner.
Yes.
Because they thought it was very funny.
Yes.
It was kind of stupid public school type thing to do.
Yes.
And a bunch of them just started disappearing, And after a while, it was very clear that there was, people were sort of saying, I'm just off to the toilet, and then they weren't coming back. And suddenly there was only about 5 of us left.
Right. Out of 10?
Out of 10.
Right.
Right. And I just said, well, I don't really think this is, the right thing to do. And
No.
I'm not having any part of it.
No.
So I think what I did in the end was I just left my money in the middle of the table.
Oh, I
Because
see.
I wasn't rich. I couldn't, leave a load of money.
No.
And I just left a load of money from
For
my
your-
own
for yours?
side, and I went out.
Well,
And I
that's
just
quite
left.
honourable.
I think it was quite honourable.
But weren't you followed out by waiters or
No.
anything like that?
No.
Because I tell you what I saw one night, and this was in Chester, I remember years ago, and you could see these guys were squaring up to do it, and I think the waiters had their eyes on them. And then all of a sudden, the guys pushed the table over.
Yeah.
So, they didn't half announce the fact that they were... So
Right.
it was nothing subtle about it
No,
whatsoever.
they just literally ran out.
Yeah, they were saying, right, take that. And they went. But the waiters went after them with machetes
Yeah.
and knives.
Did they?
Oh, yeah. There's absolutely no doubt about it. This was a Chinese restaurant, and you don't mess with the Chinese
No.
in that sort of
No, I don't think
situation. You know
No.
what I mean?
Did they get them?
Yeah, they got them, but the police arrived very quickly as well. And but it was a horrendous situation because everybody didn't know how it was going to end in bloodshed and all that kind of stuff. You know, not the sort of thing I would be associated with.
So in this thing that you've read about,
Yes.
it's just going on in sort of London restaurants.
Yeah, it's going on in London. Marcus Waring, chef patron of the...
Chef patron.
Yeah, chef patron
Yeah.
of the 2 Michelin-starred Marcus in Knightsbridge. Do you know that?
I don't know it, but
Okay.
it sounds good.
As well as Treadwell's, which is a casual dining restaurant in Covent Garden.
Okay.
Said he'd like to open something similar to Burger and Lobster, the Russian-owned chain of Bubble Dogs.
Eh?
Bubble Dogs?
Bubble dogs.
Russian-owned chain, or Bubble Dogs, which apparently is another restaurant, yeah. I thought Bubble Dogs was something you ate.
I don't know
which
what
serves
that is.
only gourmet hot dogs and champagne. Dude, do you fancy that?
I do fancy
Bubble
that,
Dogs?
actually. Maybe we should go there.
Yeah, maybe.
Gourmet hot dogs and champagne sounds like a nice lunch.
Yeah, but I don't drink champagne.
Well, you could have something else.
Yeah, okay. Now, it says restaurateurs are creating these trends by always trying to think outside the box.
Yeah.
What a stupid expression. What's happening now is that restaurants are offering only one thing, like burgers, or they're offering massive menus with a little bit of everything. They're
like these tasting menus they talk about.
They're gambling with great offerings and risking what's going to work, but so many times they get it right. It says restaurants serving one or two very specific dishes, such as the chicken shop, right? Small London chain serving free-range rotisserie chicken have had long queues of people at the door.
Yeah.
So that's all you get is rotisserie chicken on a spit, presumably.
No.
Is that right?
Well, there's lots of places like that now, which are kind of, you go in. There's a place in Bermondsey Street, actually, not very far from me,
right?
Which is one of the greatest tapas bars in London. But it doesn't actually have any tables. So what you do is you go in, and they've got like a sort of they've got a bar where you can sit, and then they've got another bar kind of against the window with stools,
right?
And then they've got another bar against the other window. It's a very, very small sort of shop front.
Is that all it does?
And all you can do is basically stand and eat.
Right.
Or
sit and eat on a high stool.
If you get a high stool, but this place is so rammed with people, generally speaking, most people are just standing and eating.
What?
And it's great. People love it.
What, with like greasy food in their hands and all that kind of stuff?
It's not greasy food. They give you little bowls, little dishes of tapas, and you rest them on the shelf, and you have a nice glass of rosé or something like that.
Yeah,
Very
funny you
nice.
should say that, because it says that formal French and British dining is losing out to tapas bars. It says British diners are turning away from classic French wines in favour of Spanish Rioja, and almost a quarter of more than 1,000 diners, so they'd ordered a bottle of Rioja in a restaurant in the past 6 months. It means it's the fastest growing wine of taste in this country, and the transition away from the French Reds mirrored a move away from formal French dining. Almost 70% of those surveyed said they now preferred more relaxed Spanish-style meals. Less than 20% said they were interested in a fine dining environment, and only 13% liked formal service anymore.
Yeah, I think that's true. Because if you go to one of these very expensive kind of white tablecloth type restaurants, it's very dull, it's very kind of staid, it's very kind of establishment, and people don't like to do that anymore.
I like formal dining.
That's why I don't want to go to a restaurant, 'cause it's full of people like you.
No, white linen cloths I like.
No.
I think it's great.
No, because you think that makes it a good restaurant.
Listen, if you have fish and chips in some restaurants in London now, you've got to eat a massive, great sea bass. Wild sea bass.
Wild sea bass, lovely.
Yeah.
I like a wild sea bass.
And do you know why? Because fishermen have been banned now from catching any sea bass which is under 42 centimetres in length.
Is that right?
Yeah. Because they're under threat, you see.
Well,
and,
they probably farm it somewhere, don't they?
No. We're supporting, this country's supporting the increase in the minimum landing size from the present 36 centimetres to give the bass a chance to spawn, creating a new generation of fish to catch. But at present, many of the bass that end up on our plates are too small. So you've got to get a bigger sea bass. If a fisherman goes out in his boat and he throws his nets into the sea, how does he discriminate between catching a sea bass which is 42 centimetres long and a sea bass 36?
Well, if it's too
does he have
short-
a notice on his net saying...
Yeah, he probably has...
No access to any sea bass under 42 centimetres?
No, but if he brings a fish onto the boat which is too small, he throws it back.
Well, that'd take hours.
No, it wouldn't.
They do. The catches are like you can catch a ton of fish at once. You can't go through all of those and measure it. What do you do then? You've got so these fishermen on board these trawlers are walking around with a measure, are they? And they measure each slippery fish which is writhing around. Say, oh, this is only a 38 sea bass. Throw it back. Is that what you're saying?
You have no idea.
I do have an idea.
No.
This is what you're telling me. It's ridiculous. It's rubbish.
No, you're ridiculous.
No,
I'm going to show you a picture of Eric Cantona and Sheffield Wednesday kit in a minute.
Oh, really?
This is Talk
So
Sport.
there is one.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
Hi, I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry. Of course, we are the two Mikes. We've got winners and losers coming up a little bit later on. I'm sure there might be some golfers figuring in that after the US Open was held at Chambers Bay over the weekend. A lot of people moaned about the course. A lot of people said it wasn't a proper open course. I thought the course was great. We're going to talk to a man now who knows a lot more about golf than you and I put together, Mr. Steve Eubanks, who's written books about the subject. Steve, a very good morning to you.
Well, good morning to you guys. Nice to be with you as always.
Yeah, and you, Steve.
Thank you very much indeed. A pretty thrilling finish in the end, wasn't it? And I mean, it's been a while since somebody three-putted to lose the Open, I suppose.
Yes, it has been, and I must say that it's been. There have been three putts to tie. I know Retief Goosen three-putted the 18th to get into a tie with Mark Brooks in Oklahoma, and that of course went on to win. But the three-putt to lose was something to see, and I think it was really enigmatic of the entire week. I mean, you had shots that nobody had seen in quite some time in the U.S. Open, and for Jordan Spieth to come back the way he did with a birdie on the last after making a very horrific double bogey on the 17th, and to win, I think it showed a lot of character on his part, and we have a worthy champion, and we have he joins very elite company, one of only 6 men to hold both the Masters and U.S. Open titles in the same year. So it's going to be fun now to as we head over to St. Andrews to see how he is going to fare on that links course.
Well, what we find very exciting in this country, Steve, is that Jordan Spieth, of course, the new sensation in golf, has won the first 2 majors of the year, and the other 2 are held by our own boy, Rory McIlroy. So he's got to challenge the other great young golfer in the world to try and take those titles off him, starting, of course, at St Andrews. That's going to be some battle.
Well, it's awfully fun to be a fan of the game right now when you have players like Rory and Jordan, both of which are tremendous people. I mean, if you ever get a chance to know them on a one-on-one basis, they are fantastic guys. They're the kinds of golfers that really shine a bright light onto the sport. So I think that having those 2 men hold the 4 major championship trophies at this time is quite special for the game indeed. And I think that people are going to be looking to have some sort of rivalry between those 2, but it will be a friendly rivalry because they are. They're good guys and they're good friends.
Sure. Now, Steve, can I get to the state of the course, please? Because this absolutely outrages me. OK, there were problems. We saw close-ups on the television of some of the greens, and they did look a bit like the old, was it cauliflower they called it?
Cabbage grass, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. But can I just say this, Steve? As an Englishman, I was very disappointed with a guy like Lee Westwood moaning and complaining bitterly about the state of the course, because at the end of the day, every single golfer who entered that competition played on that course. The conditions were the same for everybody, and it was the ones who mastered it better, if it was an unusual course, and of course it was a brand new one, it was the ones who mastered it better who came out on top. How can the others possibly complain?
You really can't. And, I mean, when you look at the leaderboard and you look at the way the thing played out on Sunday afternoon, with Rory himself making a charge late, and then with Jordan Spieth, the Master champion, winning, with Dustin Johnson, one of the hottest players in the game, with a chance to win and with a chance to tie, with Open champion Louis Oosthuizen making a charge. I mean, it was as compelling a drama as the U.S. Open could possibly produce. And I don't know what people are expecting. I mean, you had a leaderboard that everyone loved. You had compelling drama in the last 2 hours. You had 500 par as the winning score, which is just about what the USGA wanted. I would say that it was an overall rousing success.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, a lot of people who are used to watching the Masters, I suppose, and those types of very, very well manicured golf courses in the United States will look at some of the links courses in this country, like St Andrews, can be brown on a Sunday afternoon when the sun's been shining, like Lytham can be, like Royal St George's can be. They can all be very brown and not particularly green and beautiful and full of fauna and gorgeous azalea bushes all over the place, but it's still, nevertheless, it's still a very good test of golf, and I don't think how it looks makes any difference.
You're right, and look, my only critique is that Chambers Bay seemed out of place. Washington State is one of the greenest states in the country, and it rains there all the time. You have beautiful fir trees. It's a wonderful, magnificent place, but it does have that kind of greenery and fauna that you had just mentioned, and Chambers Bay didn't match the surroundings. But other than that, I mean, that's a mild critique. I think that the Open played out exactly the way everyone wanted it to.
Yeah, and was this, do you think, the final kind of moment, I suppose you would say, when the era of Tiger Woods officially finished? Because he was terrible on day one, not much better on day two. He didn't make the cut. I think only one player or so was worse than him. He was bettered by a 15-year-old amateur.
It's clownish,
and as you were saying, there's never been a better time to now watch these young guys who are really grabbing the bull by the horns. Do you think he might just think about shuffling off gracefully?
Well, I would, at this stage, I actually kind of hope so, because quite frankly, and I've said this before, and I don't think it's any great shock to anyone, I think he's done. I mean, and I say that with a heavy heart because, everyone wants to see him come back and into some semblance of form, whether or not it's major championship form, at least something reminiscent of the Tiger of old. And it's nowhere close. And I thought for a while that it was physical, that he was simply repping the wrong golf swing, and that he had some technical things that he needed to work through. But I no longer believe that. I think it's in his mind now. And because I watched him early in the week, and he hit it great. I mean, during the practice rounds, he looked like the Tiger of old. He was hitting tremendous draws on the driving range, and the new swing really looked like it was taking. By the second shot of the opening round, that person was gone. That person was no longer around. And so I think that something about the gun going off has gotten into his head, and he's either got to do a lot of serious soul searching and find himself again, or he may want to consider retiring.
Steve, is there any way now that golf can revolutionise itself? Because what we need to do is we need to encourage many more young golfers to get into these major tournaments because of the emergence of Spieth and Rory McIlroy. And we need to try and encourage people like Lee Westwood, just seems to whinge a lot, not do very much on the golf course, has never won anything worth talking about. We need them to sort of shuffle off now. They've made their millions and all that, and they don't add very much to any sort of tournament as far as I'm concerned, except moaning and belly aching about younger golfers who are doing better than them.
Well, I will say this. Golf is the ultimate meritocracy, so it has a way of working itself out in that respect. Players like Jordan Spieth end up hoisting the trophies, and players like Lee Westwood and unfortunately Tiger Woods now go home early. So I think that you will find that's going to sort of take care of itself as the year plays out.
Okay.
Do you think we might see, Steve, finally, on the last day of the Open at St Andrews, Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy walking down the 18th together, seeing who can make a three?
Boy, that would be a tremendous way to end it, and I am hopeful that is where we end up. It sure would be great for the game.
It certainly would. Steve, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
What have you got against Lee Westwood all of a sudden?
Well,
twice you picked on him.
Didn't you think it was embarrassing the way he so criticised the course? I mean, moan. That's all he could do, didn't you not?
I didn't think it was worthy of a champion, which of course he isn't.
Agree. Of course he's not a champion. He's never been a champion.
No.
And in fact...
A bit like your mate Colin Montgomery.
Well, exactly, yeah. And in fact, when Sir Nick... what's his name? Sir Nick...
Faldo?
For Nicola Faldo, a few years ago...
To forget.
Yeah.
One of the greatest golfers of all time. From this country.
Yeah. He won 6 titles.
It's embarrassing.
He won 6 titles, but only in 2 tournaments. Go on, tell me. He won 6 major titles, but only in 2 tournaments.
Yeah, but he won the Masters and the Open
3 times, that's right, and the Open 3 times, yeah. But what I'm saying is...
I know a lot more about golf than you do.
No,
questions about golf.
No, you know a bit about golf. Right, now, what I was going to say was...
I've played golf all my life.
Yeah, well, you haven't played in the last 3 years.
I haven't played in the last 3 years, that's
exactly.
true.
So you haven't played golf all your life, have you?
I played since I was 11.
Got too fat to play golf.
No, I haven't got
when you
too
couldn't
fat.
see the ball on the tee below your rumbustious belly, it was time to give up.
Have you ever seen Craig Stadler?
Craig Stadler? Yeah, big guy.
Never heard of him, have you?
Yeah, he never won anything either. Now then, let me just tell you this. Well, he did actually, but let me tell you this. When Sir Nicholas Faldo, a few years back, made past comments on the fact that Lee Westwood had just been made the #1 golfer in the world, but had never actually won a major title, I was all on Nick Faldo's side. I thought, yeah, of course you're entitled to say that. You won 6 major titles, 6 major championships, and Lee Westwood didn't. Then Lee Westwood got all uppity and said, oh, really? Yeah, we'll go and talk to the assessors about that and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was embarrassed to see Lee Westwood go on and on. Everybody had to play under the same conditions on the same course, and those who were great golfers who applied themselves and did a lot less moaning and whinging than Lee Westwood actually achieved something.
The thing about Rory McIlroy, though, and Paul McGinley said this at the weekend, he's going to have to start getting better in the early rounds because this is the second tournament now where he warmed up a bit towards the Sunday.
Yes.
But actually, he hadn't done enough on the Friday and the Thursday.
This is true.
And if he doesn't start sharpening that up, then Jordan Spieth's going to wipe the floor with him, I think. Well, Jordan Spieth seems to be a very settled young man.
I agree.
Got a steady relationship on the go.
Yeah.
Your theory about being a single person and actually being more successful has obviously been blown out of the water by Jordan Spieth.
Well,
because he's very happy.
And even more so by Andy Murray, actually, because Andy Murray, of course, has gone and won Queens again. But what I was going to say was... What were you going to say? I bet you Spieth now won't win another major this season, this year, I mean. And that's not a big... That's not a big bet to make because the odds against him now winning a third in a row are massively against him.
I don't think he'll win at St Andrews, but I think he might win the PGA. That would be my
we'll see about that. But what I'm saying is, this time last year when Rory McIlroy won the last 2. No, not this time last year. But at the end of last year, when he won the last 2, which was the Open in this country and the US PGA, right, he was then hailed as the man who could never lose a tournament again. And all these young golfers, suddenly the
pressure...
pressure...
talk a lot of rubbish about golf.
Of course they do, including yourself.
No, not including me. I've always been very sensible. I was the one, may I remind you...
Spieth will have a dip.
May I remind you, when nobody else was saying it, I was the one saying Tiger will never win another major.
I said that. I said that years ago. I also talked to a golf professional here on air years ago saying, no, Colin Montgomery will never win a major championship. Don't be silly. It was in the dominating years of Tiger, when Tiger was winning at least 2 a year. I said that only leaves room for another 2. I said Phil Mickelson will win one of the 2, and the fourth one will be a wild card winner. You get these wild card winners all the time.
Why are you pretending you're throwing darts?
No, I'm not. I'm just pointing out to you, the facts of golf. That's what I'm.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do next.
Okay?
I'm going to show you a picture of Eric Cantona wearing a blue and white shirt.
Get in the hole! Get in the hole!
This is Talk Sport. Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two mics. We've got loads and loads of tweets coming in still about your Cantona blunder.
Yes.
Bill in North Anston says, I think old Porky might be getting Cantona confused with Di Canio, who did play for Wednesday.
No.
And although the M1 does indeed stop at Leeds, I assure you, Yorkshire does not. Hashtag numpty.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I'm going to show you this picture now, which I've just retweeted.
Okay.
Now, Eric, you said you could see Eric Cantona in your mind's eye wearing a blue and white striped shirt with black shorts. Right?
Yes.
Now, describe what you can see there.
Well, that's the Manchester United third strip of a few years ago when Cantona played for them. And it is blue and white stripes and blue and white striped shorts as well.
They look like blue shorts.
And blue
really,
socks,
Do you think
that's
possibly the picture that you had in your mind's eye?
It could be.
So it was actually playing in Manchester United's away kit, not Sheffield Wednesday's.
Yes. Howard Wilkinson, remember, was manager of Sheffield Wednesday and Leeds United. So I think he had a connection with Cantona at Sheffield Wednesday before he took him to Leeds United.
There's a picture of Sheffield United's Paolo
Di Canio,
wearing blue and white stripes with black shorts.
Yeah, it's a bit similar. I mean, except one's Italian and one's French. That's the only difference.
Now, here's a weird one from Simon, right?
Oh,
Who sent this picture in.
Yes.
Of Eric Cantona playing in blue and white, but I don't know if that's Sheffield Wednesday's kit or not.
I think that is Sheffield Wednesday's kit. Let me have a look at that, please.
But he was he was certainly on trial for Sheffield Wednesday, but in no record of Eric Cantona's playing career does it say that he played anything other than a trial for Sheffield Wednesday.
Do you know what? I think this is a foreign team, because if you look at the
badge,
look at the sponsor's logo on the front. It says Mr. Tom. And I don't remember any club in this country being sponsored by anything called Mr. Tom. I don't even know what Mr. Tom is. But that's definitely Cantona, and that's definitely... No, I'll tell you something. That is a Sheffield Wednesday shirt.
Did you see an owl?
Yeah, it's a Sheffield Wednesday shirt.
Right.
That is a Sheffield Wednesday shirt, without a shadow of a doubt.
But anyway,
I am proved right.
No, you're not proved right.
To all these people behind the glass who doubted me, I'm proved right.
No, you're not proved right.
I am.
No, because what you said was he was sold to Manchester United from Sheffield Wednesday, which you are absolutely wrong about.
No, I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I knew he'd moved to Leeds United. But Howard Wilkinson, who was manager of both Sheffield Wednesday and Leeds United, took him to Sheffield Wednesday first. Of that, I'm sure.
Do not make me go back and find the piece of audio where you said
no,
he was
you don't
sold
need to.
by Sheffield Wednesday to Manchester United.
Well, I said a Yorkshire club, and they're both in Yorkshire.
No, you said
now then.
He went there from Sheffield Wednesday, and I said he went from
I think
Leeds.
we're dwelling far too long on this, and I think you are boring the listenership.
I think you'd like to move on.
Stiff. Now then, why did we play a bit of George Michael music there?
I've no idea. Why did
I'll tell you why. Because George Michael now, according to a report that was published over the weekend, is now taken refuge in one of these, what do they call them, places where you go to get help for addictions.
What, you mean like a drying out clinic?
Yeah, sort of thing.
Rehab.
Like rehab, that's the word. But it's the most exclusive in the world, and guess how much it costs? It costs £200,000 a month.
A month?
A month.
That's a lot of money, isn't it?
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well,
and this place is in Switzerland, right?
Well, all I would say is good luck to him. If he's taken that particular decision, he must think that he needs to.
Yeah. It's in Switzerland, right? And the difference about this one, and apparently George Michael's got a £100 million fortune, so he can actually afford this.
Have you ever been to a rehab clinic?
No, of course not.
I don't mean I don't mean as a patient.
Well,
I mean
funny enough,
as a sort of person who dons a white coat and pretends to go in and interview
somebody.
somebody.
No, but I did try it once, and I tried it at the Cotton something or other in Arizona.
The Cotton something or other?
Yeah, it's called the
Is that where Michael Douglas went?
Well, I was about to say, that's what I was doing there, for Michael Douglas's sex addiction.
Oh, yeah.
So I go up
you
there.
Crept up there, did you?
I did, crept up there, and I played the English doctor, and all that kind of stuff.
Did you put a white coat on?
No, I didn't, but I had a very, very smart suit on and said I'd come from London, and I was part of the consultancy service available to...
You said this to whom? The people at the gate or the people actually inside? Did you get inside?
I got inside. I got inside to the reception desk and all that. People came to see me and all that kind of stuff.
Cunning.
I'd actually had, overnight, I had business cards printed where identifying me as a doctor. Yeah. Well, no, I used another name.
What name did you use?
I used the name of my mother's maiden name, Barker. You
Dr.
know.
Barker.
Yeah. What are you laughing at?
It's brilliant. Well,
No, I did. Yeah. Seriously. I got very close.
Impersonation of a doctor.
Yeah, I got very close. Yeah. Thing is, I found out later.
I bet you had Harley Street down as an address, right?
I didn't actually. I just had Dr. Barker, medical consultant to da-da-da-da-da and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
What, to whom?
Well, to the stars or something. I put on it, something like that. Yeah, and sort of that.
Because I thought that was really genuine.
Well, I didn't want to specifically lie, about
No, of course
about
not.
anything, and
No.
and using my mother's maiden name wasn't really a lie, was it? Because that was her name, and that was.
Well, it was actually.
Yeah, that's right, and that was in Arizona.
Yeah.
That was near. Where was that? That was Tucson. It was just outside Tucson.
Is it Cottonwood?
Cottonwood, I think. Yeah, it's Cottonwood. Yeah,
Right.
But actually, that was. There's another story to that.
The Priory's the one here, isn't it?
The Priory's
Everybody
one.
goes to.
Yeah, Priory. Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a number of those, by the way.
Yeah, there are, yeah.
There's a number of them around. But that's another story. I mean, getting to Arizona, I nearly got killed.
Did you?
Yeah, because I wanted to fly into Tucson. Tucson. That's where, Tucson, Arizona, made famous in Get Back.
Yeah.
Jojo was a man who thought he was a loner.
Yeah, but it's Tucson,
he
Arizona,
couldn't.
not
Yeah, that's what I
Tucson.
said. That's what I kept saying.
You
It's
just said
spelled
Tucson.
T-U-C-S-O-N. S-O-N. S-O-N. Tucson. Now, what I was going to say
Imagine
was...
being a binman in Tucson.
So we fly in there from Washington, D.C., right? And I'm not joking. As the plane's coming down, and I'm looking out of the window, because
Yeah.
I always have a window seat,
Of course.
And
Were you in first class?
well, I was in business. And...
Did you have a doctor's bag?
No, I didn't have a doctor's bag. Doctors don't carry bags around like there were syringes in them if they're a mental doctor, do they? You know what I mean? Like a psychiatrist thing. And, psychiatrists don't go around giving people, like, injections and pills and things. So anyway, as we're flying in, I suddenly realised that the runway I'd been looking at below me didn't exist anymore, and
really?
I was looking over a forest.
Oi.
And I was thinking, I wonder what's going on here.
Well, there's that many
and then all
forests
of
in Arizona. It was all desert, isn't it?
Well, desert it was, like scrub,
Right.
So, and
Well, not really a forest at all,
it wasn't, no. So, that scene in Top Gun where he's just about to land on the deck, and all of a sudden he pulls the thrusters back and go whoosh, and shoot back up in the air,
Yeah. That's
and,
quite worrying when they do that.
Yeah, and the navigator said, hey, Goose. Oh, no, what was his name? What was Tom Cruise's name?
I think it was Goose.
No, Goose was the navigator.
Oh, Maverick.
He's Maverick, yeah. Hey, Maverick, we ain't got fuel for this, man. And Tom Cruise said, we're going after Billy, or something like that, whatever his name was.
I don't know, you're the expert.
Billy.
You're the one who
Wasn't
watches
Billy.
it about a million times.
Anyway, so that's what happened. The plane suddenly goes shooting back up in the air. We go round again, and we come down. Exactly the same thing happened. And then the pilot said, I'm sorry, we've got to abandon any attempt to land in Phoenix. Sorry, Tucson we're going into.
Tucson.
He said, because of the sheer winds coming from the hills, which make it impossible to land. I'm afraid we're going to have to go to Tucson. No, it's the other way around. To Phoenix, I'm sorry. We were trying to get into Tucson. So we flew to Phoenix, which is 120 miles away. Then I had to drive back, didn't I? And upset the plans a bit because I was due to go to the psychiatric hospital that night.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's keep you in.
Hey?
I suppose it didn't keep you in.
Anyway, it's by the by.
Yeah.
Now, the point is, right, this particular place in Zurich, it costs an astonishing £200,000 a month and is reputedly the most exclusive establishment of its kind in the world. Reports that George is being treated first surfaced in a Swiss newspaper at the weekend. It said in the clinic he undergoes an intensive treatment. The facility specialises in the treatment of addicts, helps prominent people to get away from drugs and alcohol. Now, what's unusual about this is that, most of these clinics, they sort of close you off in like prison-like, and they deny you even mouthwash and all this kind of stuff because it has traces of alcohol in it.
Yeah, although you can now buy mouthwash without alcohol in it.
Yeah, but this place does exactly the opposite. It's so exclusive, they let you go out and stay at your own hotel, and the hotel he's staying at is the same hotel where all the FIFA guys were arrested.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's just outside Zurich.
Yeah.
And he's going through the treatment, but
that seems a bit unwise, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. I suppose you've got access to a bar and all that.
Well, no, but the whole point about going to rehab is that you've reached a point where you don't think you can any longer control whatever your addiction is.
Yes.
So you need somebody to actually say, no, you can't have that bottle of vodka, or you can't have that spliff, or whatever it is that he wants to have.
Well, it says here, 2 exclusive hotels, the one I talked about, the Bar Au Lac.
That's one,
And
that's the one they arrested the FIFA guys.
Yeah, that's right, and there's another one. The other one's called the Dolder Grand, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Dolder Grand and the Bar Au Lac have an arrangement with the clinic, right, where you have an arrangement with the clinic, and they're never called patients; they're called clients.
Yeah.
And
well, for $200,000 a month, I think I'd expect to be called client.
Exactly.
Or Mr. Michael would be nice.
Yeah, Mr. Michael, that's right. Yeah, George Michael, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And a fleet of Mercedes limousines ferries them from the hotels to the clinic each day for their therapy sessions.
Right.
It's in the norm at most addiction clinics to treat people like prisoners, right, to isolate them from the temptations that have dragged them off the straight and narrow. But the Kuznacht Clinic, that's what this clinic is called, doesn't do this. Its philosophy is that the outside world has to be faced. When the touchy-feely part is over and the client is dispatched to the real world, George had a chauffeur at his disposal to take him wherever he wanted to go, to do whatever he wanted to do. The ethos of the clinic is, you want to mess yourself up, go ahead, it's your life.
Well, I suppose that's a relatively adult way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But that may be good for some people, but maybe not so good for others. Because, I mean, if you didn't need to be kind of shepherded in, if you pardon the phrase, by people who are, trying to stop you from, from getting into more trouble.
Yep.
The reason you're there is because you can't be trusted.
No, that's right, yeah.
Presumably.
And one of the reasons he's gone, and they've got a very sort of grainy picture here, he's put 3 stone on. So
he's getting quite big, isn't he?
Yeah. So he's apparently he's got an addiction to ingestions of food or something, and he's put all this weight on. He wants to lose the weight.
Well, it's called the munchies, generally speaking.
It's called what?
I think it's called the munchies.
What's the?
When you get stoned and you want to eat lots of biscuits.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, is that what happens?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. You know more about these things than I do.
Well, I've been around.
And it says it particularly helps people who've become addicted to pills. So they're not saying like drugs and heavy drugs and all that, but you can get addicted to slimming pills.
You get addicted to Valium, which is a prescription medicine. You get addicted to prescription medicine.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, lots of people in this country are addicted to antidepressants.
Yeah,
because
that's right,
people will give out antidepressants willy-nilly to people rather than trying to work out what their problem is and actually solving it.
That's true. But I just thought it's really interesting. If you've got a £100 million fortune and yet you're a lost soul, that appears to be what his problem is. Yeah. What do you do when you've got 100 million quid and you're one of the world's great songwriters? Yeah. You can get up any day you want, just write another song, that will be a hit, and that'll be another 10 million.
You say that.
So what is the purpose of life?
You say
What's the meaning of life?
No, you say that, but actually maybe the biggest fear for someone like that is that you get up in the morning, you write another song, and it's not a hit, and everybody thinks it's rubbish.
Well, even if it is...
It's like Tiger Woods. I mean, Tiger Woods used to get up every morning, go and hit a few golf balls, and know that whenever he went to a major championship, he was going to win it.
I'll go and win another tournament.
Now, he's not going to do that anymore.
You see, I understand the philosophy of this, Mike. It's the challenge in life. If you haven't got a challenge in life, your life can go backwards, not forwards.
What's your challenge then every day when you get up?
My challenge is to make sure...
Can you manage to get through the day without going to Wetherspoons?
Why do you have to belittle people? I mean, millions and millions of people go to Wetherspoons every day.
Yeah, I know, but not every day, though.
I think they
go
do
every day.
I tell you what, I'm telling you now...
If you had a loyalty card, you'd have about 7 or 8 of them.
I'm telling you...
You fill one out every week.
I'm telling you now, the fish and chips in Wetherspoons is better than the fish and chips you get in all those poncy restaurants in the West End that you go to.
Well, even though they've got white tablecloths.
Where they give you a minuscule piece of fish, mate, and nothing else. The fish and chips in Wetherspoons is real fish and chips, right? From, it could have been made in Northern England.
Is it?
I don't care if it's sea bass or not. Sort of rubbish you eat, or stuffing all them kebabs in your fat face will I'll tell you, you will never find that sort of food in a Wetherspoons. I'm a big Wetherspoons fan. Nothing wrong with that. I'm a man of the people.
They don't sell kebabs in Wetherspoons.
No, they don't. No.
Okay, well, have a look at the menu.
Why should they?
Well, because they're
it's not a kebab shop.
A cheap eatery. This is TalkSport Extra Time. You can text us, of course, on 81089. Email us via the website talksport.com, and you can tweet us, I should say, at the 2 Mikes, at Mike Parry 8 and at IROMG. Robert in Belfast says this: being from the same part of the world as McIlroy and having watched his whole career to date, if Rory brings his A game, he's unbeatable. But if he doesn't, he can be very, very ordinary and not even in the running for a major after the first round of most of the Big Four tournaments. And that is what more or less Paul McGinley said. He has to start. All guns blazing in order to be there at the end. Because if he had started, 3 or 4 shots better,
absolutely,
he could have won the whole thing.
Absolutely, 66 on the last round was better than anybody else, wasn't it? Now listen, I've got to play this out, right?
Yeah, go on.
Now this is from Tim. I want to thank Tim because he sent me in a link to a video.
Has he?
Of Trevor Francis signing Eric Cantona.
Has he?
Right. So listen,
for a trial?
No. He's got actually. Listen.
Interpreter and the manager, Trevor Francis, he didn't look at all like the man depicted.
What are you doing?
I'm playing out this.
Why are you playing it out like that?
It proves that Cantona went to Sheffield Wednesday.
Throwing a ball at a referee and then making
what?
feelings.
And there's all sorts of headline newspapers here. Eric Lebrat, French madman signs for Sheffield Wednesday.
country.
I mean, it's all there.
It doesn't matter.
It is.
It doesn't matter.
It's all there.
You said that he was sold by Sheffield Wednesday to Manchester United.
No, I didn't say that.
You did.
Which could lead to
Would you mind switching that rubbish off?
I just have done, but within that,
He just said it could lead to a full transfer at the end there.
Exactly.
So he's on trial.
Yeah, well, he was at Sheffield Wednesday. That's the only point I was trying to make,
No,
okay?
he was on trial at
and I
Sheffield
wish people
Wednesday.
would just accept that, you know?
Well, he was on trial at Sheffield Wednesday. Why don't you just accept you got it wrong?
It says here, Cantona never signed but had a trial at at Sheffield Wednesday. There's footage of him playing five-a-side in blue and white kit.
He never signed.
Yeah, but you see, the point is, he was
never
at
signed.
I didn't say he did sign. I said he was at Sheffield Wednesday. And he was at Sheffield Wednesday.
No, you said... I thought you said you'd spent too much time on this anyway.
Yeah, we have. I'm just proving that I was right, that's all.
No, you weren't right.
Yes, I was.
No, I'm afraid not. You were wrong. Now, what about that story? I don't know if you saw it over the weekend.
Yeah.
About the first driver in Britain convicted of hogging the middle lane.
Yeah.
Now, this was one that caught my eye.
Yeah.
Because he says that...
He got 5 points on his licence.
Well, yeah, but he didn't turn up either, did he? He got £940 fine. He was driving his white Citroen Berlingo van at 60 miles an hour on the central lane of the M62 between Rochdale and Huddersfield.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure which part of
Two
the country
great
you'd
towns.
like that to be.
Well, that's Lancashire.
Is it Lancashire?
Well, Huddersfield is just in Yorkshire.
Yeah, so it's not quite Lancashire, is it?
Well, Rochdale's in Lancashire.
Yeah.
Rochdale's in Greater Manchester, actually. In fact, I used to work on the Daily Express right near the Rochdale Road out of Manchester.
Did you? OK. Well, this is not about you. This is about this guy whose name is Ian Stevens, right? Now, he told the Manchester Evening News he didn't do anything to endanger his fellow motorists. He said he was driving in the middle lane because of high winds and he was not an inconsiderate driver. What was your view when you saw that story?
Well, I'm not sure what hogging the middle lane means. Are you supposed to drive in the slow lane if there's nobody in the slow lane?
Yes, of course you are.
Yeah, but that means that about literally every 30 or 40 yards, you're going to have to whip out
Not
to
necessarily.
overtake the other car in the slow lane and go back in the slow lane.
Yeah, well,
which I think is a bigger hazard than driving in the middle lane.
Well, no, it depends.
It is.
I think it depends on a lot of things. It depends on, one, how much traffic there is, right? And it depends on how busy the lanes are. But technically speaking, it's not the slow lane, the middle lane, and the fast lane. You know, these are three lanes. If you're not overtaking, you should be in the inside lane.
Yeah, but the problem
That's
is,
the
as
rule.
I've said, Mike, that people in the slow lane drive very slowly, and that means
Not always.
that means during the course of a journey of 20 miles, you might pull out of the slow lane to the middle lane to overtake and back again once a mile.
I mean, for
and
example,
that is a hazard.
For
That's
example,
a hazard.
Most of your driving, most of my driving, certainly, in the south of England, is on dual carriageways, right? There's not that much motorway driving.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but very little. I mean, the M25 I go on for a brief stretch, but not for very much.
Well, I go on the A3M.
And the M20, well, is that 3 lanes or 2?
Depends. Parts of it are 2, parts of it are 3.
Right. So when you're in a 2-lane part of that particular road,
Yes.
do you always stay in the outside lane?
Of course.
Why?
Because I go faster than other cars.
Do you?
Yeah.
How fast?
Oh, faster than the cars on the inside.
Yeah.
They get on my nerves because they're all...
But what you should do is move inside when you're not overtaking
in
anyone.
that case, I'd be moving in and out literally about every 500 yards, and that is a hazard. It's a hazard to be moving in and out. So I'm not sure I agree with that. Did you see, by the way, the Samsung lorry tonight? Did you see the video of the Samsung lorry?
No.
This is absolutely incredible, right? This is on the continent. I think it's in like France or Belgium or Germany or somewhere.
Okay.
And the Samsung lorry's going along, right? And you know what Samsung make? They make all sorts of things, don't they?
Well, they make your phone for a start.
They make my phone, that's right, yeah. And they make other things, right. And do you know what the
televisions?
Televisions, that's right, absolutely right, yeah, they do make televisions. And guess what's on the back of the Samsung lorry?
And on the back of it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
For the car behind is a screen, a live screen of the road in front of the Samsung lorry.
Oh, really? That's clever.
Thrown onto the back by a camera on the front.
Isn't that clever?
So if you want to overtake, you can actually see the road ahead.
Right.
It's an amazing, absolutely incredible.
So that means, say, for example, you're just on a 2-lane road.
Yes.
You can actually see past it.
Yes.
But would you trust that, though?
Well, what else would you be looking at?
Well, what if there was a blind spot, for example?
Well, you don't do it in a blind spot, you know.
No,
I
you
mean,
wouldn't know there's a blind spot. That's why it's a blind spot.
Of course you would, because the camera's showing you exactly what's on the road 200 or 300 yards ahead.
You're missing my point. My point is that what if the camera has a blind spot? And so, for example, if it's a particularly large lorry, and you see what's in front, and you can't see the car that's coming the other way because it's past the camera, and then you pull out and wham.
Well, I think you know, you can see the road ahead, and if you watch it for a good 30 seconds, then the car that you think is just coming to the blind spot couldn't have come into the blind spot because you'd have seen it coming from distance,
maybe.
wouldn't you?
Unless it was turning from a side road.
Well, that would be a very strange arrangement on a fast road, wouldn't it? You know,
it would.
So, but I think it was brilliant.
I don't think I would trust that.
I think it was absolutely brilliant innovation, and I thought, wow, you know, we should all go down this road. I mean, in future, think about the way you could apply it to cars.
Well, have you ever had a car, for example, I don't know if your car currently has it, with a rear camera?
No.
So when you're backing up, it's
No, I
actually,
haven't.
It's actually...
No.
And I don't like those. I mean,
I think they've gone out of vogue.
Well, I've rented cars that have had those.
Yeah,
right?
well...
And, you know, it's almost like a fisheye kind of type situation, right?
Absolutely.
So when you're looking at the screen, you know, it doesn't look like a real situation.
And you still don't know how far away that concrete post is behind you before you hit it.
because it's almost distorted.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
That's
you've probably got sensors and all the rest of it.
I
don't think reliance upon technology is the way forward
I totally
for
agree.
driving, actually.
I totally agree. But the Samsung one really impressed me. I think that's something you should do.
I'll have a look at that.
Now, talking about cars, of course, you've really knackered your car, and I've been taking some advice. No, I have. I've been taking some advice.
Fine.
No, I took some advice during the break because I was concerned about your car. What you've probably done, according to my expert, is you have so strained the gaskets on your engine they'll blow any time now.
You reckon?
Because what you've done is you've allowed too much oil into the block, and that means the pressure has been enormous on the gaskets, and you're lucky the pistons didn't just pack up.
Yeah, well, they didn't.
The big end didn't pack up and leave you with a completely knackered engine.
The car has been...
But you've done in your gaskets...
The car has been in the shop, as it were, right? Now, if there was any damage to it, they would have told me.
They wouldn't know.
Yeah, they would.
No, they wouldn't, because the
would.
gaskets don't, they don't blow until they're blown, if you see what I mean. You don't know they're going to blow, OK?
Well, I mean, if at the end of the day the gaskets blow
I'd
and
say,
the car breaks down...
Which of the two cars was it?
It was the Merc.
Right, yeah, but I mean, the old wreck outside with the dented bonnet.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah. Well, I wouldn't be planning to drive around that for too much longer, Mike. I think you've done the engine. I think it's completely knackered.
Well, if that's happens to turn out to be the case, then I'll just get another one.
Yeah, and I see, man of the people, eh? Man of the people. Chuck this car away, get another car.
That's because I didn't spend very much money on it.
Yeah.
Unlike you.
Well, if you find oil dripping out from underneath the block, it's because you've blown the gaskets,
right,
OK?
Well, I'll make sure I check that.
Yeah.
Thanks very
much.
By the way,
won't be the first time you've blown a gasket, man. I'm telling you, your behaviour lately, disgraceful.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Bucks.
I don't mean to tell you.
This is Talk Sport. Extra time winners and losers is looming large. And what we'll do, just so that everybody's very clear, I haven't asked you yet whether you wish to be retweeted or favourited this week.
I'll be favourited.
You'll be favourited.
I'll be favourited this week.
And so what we'll do is we'll send out a tweet approximately half an hour from now once we finish winners and losers, which you can either favourite for Mr. Parry or retweet for me. We'll keep the voting open until midnight as ever, and then we will tally up the votes and announce the winner at the end of or the beginning of the show tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Does that sound good to you?
That's good.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, you would have recognised that piece of music, of course.
That was Rod Stewart,
Yes.
Stay With Me.
And the Faces.
And the Faces, Rod Stewart and the Faces, that's right, that's great, yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about Faces for?
Why?
I've come across a research document, which says the way to get on in life is to have a neutral face.
Neutral? What does that mean?
Not a happy, smiling face, not a solemn face, not, a frown on your face, not a beaming smile all the time.
Like me, then.
You look like a,
like me. You often accuse me of being expressionless.
Yeah, well, sometimes. What do they call a happy face? A laughing jackanap, is it, or something like that?
Jackanape.
Jackanape, it's a jackanape, and you shouldn't do it. Because what happens is, if you have a completely neutral expression on your face, it confuses the people you're with.
Yes.
So you go for a job interview.
Well, it's a bit like a poker face, isn't it? You don't want to give anything away.
Well, this is absolutely right.
Yeah.
Right. A neutral or happy expression is more likely to gain trust. An angry face provokes distrust.
Yes.
A happy face does not give people confidence in you. But perceptions of competence are unlikely to be altered by a smile, a frown, or any other expression, OK?
Right.
Reinforcing the belief that those with a neutral face get on in life. Now, where it's most important, because people see it as a constant image, is in a photograph.
Right.
That is why you're not allowed to make a facial expression when you have a picture taken for a passport or something like that.
And you're not allowed to smile or anything, are you?
Not allowed to smile and all that. But what people are missing is that if they, these days everybody applies for jobs online and all that, and they send in a CV, and the CV is accompanied by a picture of yourself, and people often steal pictures of somebody else to make themselves look more glamorous or something like that.
That would be the point of that, because then when you eventually turn up for the job, they realise you were somebody else.
Yeah, but you might be able to get a picture of somebody who closely resembles you. You know, in my youth, I might have been able to get a picture of, like, Noel Edmonds or something like that. You know what I mean?
Noel Edmonds?
Yeah, and something like that. Yeah. Because
Who would you use now?
Well, I don't use anybody now, do I?
You've got that guy from ABBA. you know,
Benny.
Benny.
Benny,
I mean,
yeah.
absolute spitting image of him.
Benny Anderson.
Yeah.
And Jorn Ulvaeus.
Yeah.
But, no, what I was going to say is you should make sure that the facial expression on your application is completely neutral. Now, I've come across people in life who've actually quite unnerved me by having that neutral look on their face. You know, a mutual friend of ours at the Evening Standard.
You're going to don't give his name away.
The deputy editor.
No, don't give his name away.
He won't mind.
No, don't give his name away.
Well, he's a friend of ours.
No, doesn't matter.
And it's a compliment to him.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's
I
a
don't think
compliment.
you should give people's names away
Well, why not?
continually.
Why not?
Because, one, you haven't asked their permission.
Well,
Two,
they
I
don't
don't
need
know what you're
permission.
going to say about him. And so, three,
All
I
right,
think
okay.
we should keep.
All right.
He should
Well,
remain
okay.
androgynous.
On this occasion, I will I'll bow to your
All right.
superior plea. And what I'm saying is, he's always, whenever I dealt with him, one time I was his boss for a number of years, with a completely neutral expression on his face.
Yeah.
And that kind of worried me.
Yeah.
I didn't know
You
whether...
never knew whether he was in favour or against.
Well, I never knew whether he was thinking... He's talking a complete load of rubbish, and I have no respect for him.
That was what he was normally thinking.
Or he was thinking, this is a brilliant piece of, executive direction from which I will learn. Or whether...
But that was one of his great strengths.
He just didn't care.
But
that's what I'm saying.
That's why he survived so long in the business.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you're not the only one who couldn't tell what he was thinking.
Yeah,
Nobody
exactly.
can.
Exactly. That's what I'm singing.
Yeah.
But the person who comes in and tells you, yeah, it's brilliant. Oh, yeah, no, great. Oh, I'm man for the job. Oh, I can do this. I can work 18 hours a day and all this kind of stuff. Too enthusiastic, too over the top.
Yeah.
You kind of lose confidence
Also,
in.
because you can also tell when you're in those situations, for example, if you were, say, briefing a reporter or something, you could tell immediately as you were telling them what you wanted them to do, whether they were excited about it or whether they were absolutely horrified at the prospect of having to do what you were asking them to do.
Yes, exactly.
Because some people are not very good at hiding their emotions.
Yeah, whether they actually got it or didn't get it. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Now, you say that's a poker face. It's also a political face, isn't it?
Yes.
You're around the negotiating table, it's all about nuclear disarmament and all that kind of stuff, and you've got to have a completely
Because I've often been
neutral
accused
face.
in the past of never appearing to be terribly enthusiastic about anything.
Yeah, well, you're not.
Which is not.
Except getting bladdered.
Well, no, that's not true. I don't necessarily.
And in your
outwardly,
former life, chasing women who were available.
No, I don't absolutely.
Or even chasing women who weren't available.
No, that was your thing.
No,
I mean, I can be very enthusiastic about something that I'm about to do, but I tend not to show it just because that's the way I am. You know, I don't outwardly kind of show a great deal of.
You would say you're laid back, are you?
Well, no, you say that.
I think
it's not that I'm laid back. It's just that I don't particularly think jumping up and down and sort of, getting very excited about anything is. What do you mean? What do you mean anyway?
Anyway.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of explaining a question that you just asked me.
Yes, that's right. Yes, go on.
So never mind anyway.
No, go on. Yeah.
Moving on because we're not talking about you for 5 bloody minutes.
No.
My point is that I don't wish to give away to anyone that is not perhaps a good friend of mine or something that knows me particularly well.
Yes.
My true feelings. And that's just the way I am.
Okay, and did you ever play poker?
I keep my counsel. I did used to play a bit of poker,
yeah. And you think that helped you in the old poker table?
Yes, I think it did, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, what I was going to say is, the problem is, and this comes from a new report.
A new report, where is this?
Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin. Sorry, what did I
That just dropped through the door, did it?
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
It's Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin.
And how often did that come out?
Well,
It's quarterly?
I study these things
Or does
because
it come out weekly? Is that a weekly?
I study it's published by New York University. So it's quite I'd say that was quite.
Well, it's probably better than North Florida.
I thought it was quite
a step up.
Look, I research these things so that I'm able to have confidence in my subject, right?
Course, yeah.
But what I'm saying is,
what are you saying?
What I'm saying is, some people, unfortunately, are born with what you might call, a clownish face.
Well, I'll tell you whose face, is always in, social media, people making fun of it all the time. Phil Jones, right? Phil Jones's face.
Phil Jones, the footballer?
Yeah, the footballer, the Man United and England star.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're naming names now. You're naming names.
He's a footballer.
But you're about to insult him, aren't you?
Well, I'm not about to insult him.
What are you about to say?
I'm about to say that his face is very much the subject of, lots and lots of funny jokes that people make and lots of memes and things like that go on, because he's always got some kind of look of anguish on his face all the time. I've never seen him looking anything other than anguished.
Has Phil Neville got a neutral face?
Phil Neville? Yes, I would say so.
Yeah? So it's hard to tell what he's thinking.
Yes, I think so.
But there are some people in the world who just have a just a natural jovial air about them. I mean, look, we've got a colleague here at Talksport, haven't we? Hello, kidder, and all this kind of stuff. And he has a naturally jovial face.
Yeah.
So you kind of know all the time that he's, but enthusiastic about life.
Yeah, but nobody can be jovial all the time. I mean, that's also a bit of a falsehood, isn't it?
Yeah,
in a way.
And some people are just born with that hangdog look.
Yeah.
So, for instance, Take the guy who was the Scottish Undertaker in Dad's Army. Okay?
Yes.
You know, what was his name?
What was his name? Fraser.
Fraser. Well done, that's good. Now, I mean, he was born with an Undertaker's face, wasn't he? And
well, I don't know about that.
No, he was. You know, some people, unfortunately, their faces give them away, but there's nothing you can do about them unless you go and get restructure your bones in your face or something. What's it called? Cranial surgery.
Surgery.
And
that's probably a bit drastic.
Change your face around, and then, I mean, do you know what? Imagine that. Imagine if you wanted to be a great poker player. But you decided you had too happy a face. Yeah. You go and see some surgeon, get him to break up your face and put it back together again.
No, you wouldn't need to.
You would. You would, because then you wouldn't get any expressions.
Because if you've got a continually happy face, then they wouldn't know whether you were happy or not.
Well, yeah, but I mean...
so it's a sort of double jeopardy scenario.
No, I don't think so. I think it gives too much away.
I mean, one of the things that I have noticed, though, is about some people, particularly women, actually, if they've spent a lot of time frowning in their lives, that they will start, as they get older, and I noticed this with sort of older women in my family, if their mouths start to sort of turn down at the edges.
Really?
Because why are you doing that with your face?
Well, because I'm imitating what you're trying to tell me.
It's like talking to a chimp.
Well, are you thinking how I should go?
Well, no, but because if they've spent a lot of time sort of frowning rather than smiling.
Yes.
You know, some people say, "Oh, I don't want crow's feet around my eyes." Or, you know, I think all of that's very attractive, right? But some women, if they've spent a lot of time being miserable in their lives, their mouths sort of turn down, and some men as well.
Yes.
And their mouths turn down. Well, they haven't spent a lot of time. Laughing.
Well, that just proves that these emojis that people use in their
learned a new word.
Yeah, I've seen it. In these text messages are very true to life. Then, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, it's all about facial expressions, the emojis,
well,
isn't
not
it?
really, no.
Yes,
they're sort of cartoons.
It's not. They're not. They're about facial expressions. Sad, crying, happy, concerned, unconcerned, smiling, not smiling, all that.
Oh, no,
there's a range of them. There's hundreds of them. There's 40 or 50 of them.
I've noticed you haven't started using them yet, though.
Well, I don't know how to access them, and even if I did, I wouldn't use them. I think they're stupid. Well, I think people use emojis.
You access them from your keyboard.
Or, slightly short of the picnics, the sandwiches in a picnic box.
Slightly short of a picnic.
By the way, did we talk about picnics last week?
No.
Now that it's June and all this. Now it's June and all this. People want me. I got invited to a picnic.
Alex Stewart?
No, I didn't say Alex Stewart.
What did you say?
I said I got invited to a picnic now that it's June. And
by whom?
Well, the family members and all that kind of stuff. But
members?
I won't go to a picnic.
What, your family members
I will
on
not
picnics?
Sit around in a field with flies buzzing around my face.
Downton Abbey or something you live in?
Right, eh?
Do you think it's Downton Abbey
on a blanket, right, on a blanket beneath a tree, eating a sandwich, just getting attacked by a midge.
I'm a big fan of picnics.
Oh, no, picnics are dreadful.
It depends who you go with.
Well, I tell you what, it'd be a long time since you went on a picnic, because you couldn't go on a picnic these days, because if you got down and sat down on the grass on a picnic, you wouldn't be able to get up again, because you're too fat and heavy to be supple. I'm telling you.
Don't worry about...
you would. You'd get arthritis if you went on a picnic.
Is that your...
I'm telling you.
Is that Dr. Barker's view of life?
Yeah, I'm telling you it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right, coming up, it's time for winners and losers. Porky, 8-1 down. Can he get one back? It's Talk Sport.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
Maybe even the losers, you're lucky sometimes. Even the losers keep running pride. They get lucky sometimes.
This is Talk Sports Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. We are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out. This is our weekly attempt at seeing who's coming up with the best winners and the best losers of the weekend, or the last few days, certainly. And as ever, I'm going to give Mr. Parry the honour and let you give your three losers first. And I can warn you that mine are very good this week. So
OK, mine are excellent.
Very careful.
Mine are excellent.
Go on, then. OK,
first, the loser of the week for me, Fabio Capello.
Oh, yeah.
OK, Russian coach during a winless World Cup last year.
I had him a few weeks ago.
No. Overseen a return of 8 points from 6 games in Euro 2016. As a result, a fans group is trying to raise £15.5 million needed to buy out the former England boss out of his contract.
Is
okay,
that right? Because there were questions when I did it. There were questions
Hmm.
being asked in the Russian Parliament about him as to why he was still in charge.
Right. Well, this guy's still in charge because the fans or somebody has got to give him £15.5 million to go. What a loser! Okay.
Yeah.
Now then, the second
he
loser.
hasn't actually gone yet.
Well, he's going. I mean, he can't possibly keep going. The second one is a guy called Carlos Carvalhal. Who's he?
Carlos Carvalhal?
Yeah.
You mean Carvalho?
No, Carvalhal.
Oh, yeah? Where's
Carlos
he playing?
Carvalhal, right?
Yeah. Go on, then.
An average Portuguese player, right, who's proved himself to be an average... very average coach. He's just been appointed Sheffield Wednesday's manager.
This would be why you've been thinking about Sheffield Wednesday.
Maybe. In 16 years, right, get this, he's managed 14 different teams in Europe,
right,
of which 11 of them have been in Portugal.
Really?
I mean, Portugal have only got like 2 or 3 decent teams. 11 of them in Portugal, right? 1 in Greece and 2 in Turkey.
Yeah.
He's won 1 trophy, which is the Portuguese League Cup.
Yeah.
And he's never won anything else.
Yeah.
And he's just been appointed Sheffield Wednesday manager. So Carlos Carvalhal, right, cannot be considered even to be an average coach, let alone one good enough to restore the fortunes of Sheffield Wednesday.
Well, you don't know, really, do you?
No,
I mean,
he can't be.
maybe it will be his lucky team.
Utter rubbish.
Well, he hasn't been a loser yet, though, has he? So, therefore, you could say that...
He's a complete loser. He keeps getting sacked from jobs.
Well, so do lots of people.
In 16 years, he's managed 14 clubs. He's managed 11 teams in Portugal.
Well, you can look at it another
Not
way.
exactly a powerhouse league in Europe.
Well, he keeps getting rehired, though, doesn't he?
Well, you know,
I think that makes him a winner.
Starting the job.
I think you're very wrong on that one.
No, all-time loser.
Yeah.
And the last set of losers, West Ham fans who have to go to FC Lusitans.
Where's that?
Well, exactly. Andorra,
yeah, okay.
6th smallest nation in the world.
It's not that far away.
Do you have to get to Andorra?
Well,
it's impossible to get there. It's impossible to get there. But the point is, this game is taking place in 3 weeks' time before the football season starts.
Well, the football season starts there.
That to me, I'm sorry, that to me means absolutely that they're on a loser already. Because once you start your season having to trek off up to the Andes to
Andes?
to Andorra, that's where it is.
Well, I don't think they're in the Andes, are they?
Yeah, I think they are.
The Andes are in South America.
And that's right. Yeah, sorry, I meant the Pyrenees.
Oh, right.
That's right, the Pyrenees.
Yeah.
And,
it's easy to mistake the two.
Yeah, exactly.
They're on completely separate continents.
Exactly.
And one lot are a lot higher than the other.
And once you're starting a season like that on the back foot, I'm afraid you will find, as Everton did to their cost last season,
also think of
it can take its toll.
Think of the altitude sickness.
Yeah, well, it could be a problem. Could be a problem. You never know.
Is that your 3 then?
Yeah,
that's
my 3, yeah.
Is that what you've spent all this weekend coming up with?
Yeah.
OK, well, my first loser of the weekend is a man by the name of Chris Kirk. Ever heard of him?
Chris Kirk? Don't think so.
He's an American golfer who played at the US Open, right? Finished plus 21 for the tournament, and he finished with an 8 over par 78, right? But he started the final round, which was on Sunday, of course, with a sextuple bogey 10 on the par 4 first.
Yeah.
A 10.
Yes, a 10. That's very bad.
That's the kind of thing that a professional shouldn't do. He had 5
Well,
attempts...
except Tiger Woods has already done it.
Well, hang on. He had 5 attempts chipping from the edge of the green towards the pin, each time seeing the ball roll backwards towards his feet. And all he then did was complain about the golf course. This is what he said. The US Open is a great tournament with incredible history. The USGA should be ashamed of what they did to it this week.
Yeah.
Now, you thought Lee Westwood was a whiner.
Yeah.
How about this guy?
Yeah, except nobody's ever heard of him, I'm afraid.
Well, yeah, but he came last in the tournament, so he is, in fact, the ultimate loser. Now, the second loser of the weekend for me is actually Duncan Bannatyne. As I said to you earlier, this is a guy who, unfortunately, for one reason or another, went out with a woman who decided to kiss and tell and tell her story. All of which you might say is not his problem and not his fault. But unfortunately, I thought some of his tweets over the weekend, where he was tweeting things like, I see there's a bunny boiler on the loose in Britain, very unchivalrous. And then he started tweeting out pictures of him and his new girlfriend, saying things like, love is in the air. He also tweeted out pictures of him and her on a private jet. And I just think it's all a bit classless, and I think Duncan Bannatyne ought to know better.
And this
keep his private
dispute
life to himself.
All initiated in an allegation from his former girlfriend, Miss Great Britain, that he was going to publish some naked pictures of his former girlfriend.
Which he denies and says he was never going to do.
He says that he never made that threat.
And the third loser of the weekend is you.
What?
You.
What?
Because you were predicting last week that Gareth Southgate was the wrong man to be running England under 21 team.
Yep.
You also predicted Rory McIlroy was going to win the US Open. You also appeared in a drama called Blackwork on ITV. as the criminal character.
Oh, no.
The man was called Michael Parry.
Well, the character was, yeah, but it's not me.
Well, I know it's not you.
No.
But, I mean, they've used your name, so there's obviously some consideration going on there. If I were you, I'd get onto it and find out whether they've got permission to use your name.
Do you know, this is typical of you.
What?
What you've done is you've gone for the popularity vote.
No,
You
I
think
haven't.
by invoking my name, putting me in as a loser, that will win you the competition.
No,
I think that's
don't. Well,
pathetic.
I don't need to invoke the popular vote.
I think our audience of millions will reflect on that and say, what a cheap way to try and score a few positive votes in the winners and losers competition.
Is that right? Is that what
I
you
think
think
you're
they'll think?
doomed in this competition.
Well, we'll see.
Come on, folks. Do you really want to support a man who's trying to besmirch my name for cheap reasons just to win the competition?
The main criminal, as it was pointed out to me, is fittingly named Michael Parry.
Yeah, well, it's not my fault. I have nothing to do with that.
I shall say no more.
That's horrendous persecution of my name.
Let's find out who the winners are.
Yeah.
The winners.
No, I'll let you go first on this
You
occasion.
want me to go first?
Yeah, well, I went first last time.
Okay, well, my first winner of the weekend is Dennis Bergkamp.
Dennis Bergkamp.
Dennis Bergkamp.
He stopped
I've never
playing
seen
20 years ago.
Yeah, he did, but it was 20 years ago, just the other day, that he was signed by Bruce Rioch for Arsenal. Right? I've never seen so many documentaries, so many pieces written, so much written about a player. For any club, really, but for Arsenal in particular. And it just shows you how brilliant Dennis Bergkamp was. And
By the
to
way-
be able to watch all the stuff that he did, I thought it was tremendous. And for Dennis Bergkamp to be so well thought of 20 years later, and he stopped playing, as you say, a long time ago, you know, I think it's fantastic.
Did you read how our mutual mate Piers Morgan got caught out with Dennis Bergkamp?
No.
He was in an exclusive cocktail bar in Santa Monica,
Oh, yeah.
where you and I have been many times.
Indeed.
With his wife Celia.
Yeah.
And a group of 4 Dutch girls came in. Mm-hmm. One of them conned Piers into believing she was Dennis Bergkamp's sister.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He went on droning
He
on
believed
tour
her?
for 2 or 3 hours and all that. When he got home, he Googled up Dennis Bergkamp just to find out, see if a picture of it, and he hasn't got any sisters. And he had contacted this girl because she'd given him the details. She said, yeah, I want to be an actress, and I just thought I'd try it out on you. He got completely conned.
Oh, well. And it's easy to con somebody who's an enthusiast, I suppose.
Well,
That's the problem.
he was a bit over-enthusiastic about the Dennis Bergkamp 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
Right, who's your second winner?
My second winner of the weekend is Jose Mourinho. Not because he's
Well,
selling
that's
Peter
not very
Cech.
original, is
well,
it?
hang on. Not because he's selling Peter Cech to Chelsea, even though he doesn't want to
makes
sell
him a
Peter
loser.
Cech to Chelsea, because
On this odd occasion.
because he has now latched onto Andy Murray, and he has given Andy Murray, as I said to you a little bit earlier in the show, a taste of his winning formula. And Andy Murray and he have now become good mates. And I think as a result of getting Jose Mourinho on
I think
side,
that's desperate.
he is going to become the Wimbledon champion this season again.
I think
this
that's-
has nothing to do with my love affair with Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, desperate.
Andy Murray, very, very smart guy.
Desperate.
As you said before, you know, has won now very, very many games. He's only lost a couple of games since he's been married, right?
Yeah,
Won
yeah.
Queens for the 4th time. I think it's tremendous. And then finally, Owen Morgan
Yeah.
is my third winner.
Ooh,
because this is another prediction of yours, which
Yeah.
was that England would not beat New Zealand, right?
No,
and
I
in
didn't.
fact,
I
yes, you
never
did.
said that. No, I
Yes,
didn't.
you did.
No, I didn't.
There's no
I
point
didn't.
denying it.
No, I
There's
didn't
no point
say that.
denying it. You were slagging off the
I
England
said
team.
I hope they would.
You were slagging off the England team, and I just think Owen Morgan has shown, basically, that as soon as you put somebody young, somebody a little bit fresh, somebody a little bit more kind of creative, who wants to score a lot of runs, that the England cricket team actually is looking an awful lot better. Even though he's Irish, I say he's a winner.
Right, I think all those are pathetic.
Well, you may say
I've
that.
got 3 here, which are going to knock those off.
Well, you've only got
any
about a
sort of
minute left
pedestal.
now.
I know. I'm going to go through them very
Go through 'em
quickly.
fast.
Right, the first winner, Roy Keane.
Roy Keane?
Roy Keane.
You're joking.
No, he had to appear in court to defend himself against a charge of road rage brought by another agitated motorist who made trouble for Roy Keane because he's Roy Keane. The magistrate literally laughed it out of court and said, "There's no case to answer here." Bang, threw it out.
Why does that make him a winner?
Because he's won his case. Winner number one. He was persecuted by a crazed anti-Keane guy, and he beat him.
A crazed anti-Keane guy.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. The second guy, who is a massively clear winner this week, is Chris Evans.
Oh, yeah.
From saying that he was not interested in Top Gear, he's now actually become the Top Gear Supremo.
Yeah.
Not only is he going to be the presenter, he's the executive producer, which means he's got total power over the show, and he's going to pick his own co-presenters. Nobody has taken over a show of such
That's not
popularity and
That's not
re-established a
That's not
new
true.
rule of
No,
law.
that's not true.
It is
because
true.
when he came out and said there will definitely 100% be a female presenter,
Yep.
right, the head of the BBC said that is not at all the case.
Well, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the BBC man says. Chris Evans has total control over his co-presenters.
He'd be good at Top Gear.
Chris Evans has total control over his co-presenters.
The rest of the boot room staff in there.
And therefore he is a winner. And the third winner of the week, and this is the best of the lot, Damian Lewis could be the new James Bond. He's
an ancient story.
No. He's a massive contender. But the reason...
last week's story.
No, the
How
reason...
does that make him a winner?
Because I'm telling you, he would be the first man with ginger hair to have...
This is an ancient story.
To have attained such a position in British cinematic history. No great redhead has ever become a legendary figure in cinematic history, but Damian Lewis is about to.
So the best one of the lot is something that hasn't yet happened.
No,
how is it you put it down? You go coulda, woulda, shoulda.
No,
it hasn't happened.
No.
If he gets to be James Bond,
yes,
it would be a good one.
Well, exactly, but I've got my inside sources.
Well, a bit like the ones that said Gareth Southgate should be sacked, the ones that said Rory McIlroy should win, the one that said Colin Montgomery was going to win.
I keep an eye on developments. All three of my winners are much better than yours.
Well, I don't think they are.
I rest my case with the listeners. Remember, listeners, you heard it here first. I think my winners are the better winners, and I think my losers are better losers.
Yeah, well... I must say, you're much better at losing than you are at winning. So far, the score is 8-1. I'm about to tweet out...
That's rubbish. Nobody believes that.
I'm about to tweet out on the Two Mikes account, retweet for me to win, favourite for Mike Parry to win.
Yep.
The voting is now open, and you
Get
can
the
vote.
favourite votes in, please, quick.
You can vote.
Quick.
You can vote until... Stop begging for votes. It's
vote favourite and vote often.
You can't vote more than once.
Yes, you
and
vote today and tomorrow.
It closes at midnight. You can't do it twice on Twitter.
I think you can.
You numpty. A little bit later on, of course, the voting for winners and losers is now open. It's open till midnight tonight. Do get voting, although a couple of early tweets suggest to me that you're not going to be doing terribly well. Roy says it's pronounced Carbajal. Geez, Porky, you failed in the pronunciation again. And Thomas says Parry is the loser already, as Sheffield Wednesday haven't appointed a new manager yet.
Oh, that's rubbish. Of course they have.
Have they?
Yes.
Have you got inside information on
that
as well?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, one of the reasons we played that little ditty there, which is, of course, the Simpsons theme tune,
certainly was.
Have you seen the Partick Thistle mascot? The Partick Thistle mascot, right, was unveiled yesterday, and people say it looks like a sort of acidized version of Lisa Simpson.
Yes,
from
it
the
does.
Show.
Yeah,
it looks absolutely awful, doesn't it?
I thought that it was damaged. When I saw it, I thought, golly, it's fallen off the main stand or something like that. Is that Partick Thistles?
It's Partick Thistles, and they're called the Jags, right? So they're called the Jags, which you probably knew, right? You know where their ground is, don't you?
Whose?
Partick. What do you mean whose? Partick Thistle.
It's in Partick.
Yeah. Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's a suburb of Glasgow.
Suburb?
Yes.
Would you call it that? Well, no, it's actually in Glasgow.
Yeah, it's in Glasgow. That's what I mean. It's a bit
like saying, Soho's a suburb of London.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, it is. It's a district. A district
of
Glasgow.
Really a district. But anyway, it's in the West End of Glasgow.
Yes, of course,
And so the jaggy head effect is possibly kind of forgivable, but it's got this mono brow.
Yeah.
And people are saying it is possibly one of the worst and most crazy-looking mascots of all time.
And it frightened children as well, Well,
it probably will, actually.
Because what these mascots have to be very sort of cuddly and friendly towards kids, and then
but more and more they're not, are they?
No, they're not, and that's a lot to do with the person inside the mascot. Okay, because in the old days, in fact, it'd be much better off if the mascots were all women and not men.
Why?
Because women have a greater empathy with children.
Well, how do you know they're not women?
Well, I know they're not. There's not a woman mascot in certainly in the Premier League or the Championship, and I think they should be women because women have a more natural sort of bonding effect with children than some guy who wants to make his career as a mascot, which is a very strange career indeed, is it not?
Well, it's not necessarily a strange career, but it's not something I particularly want to do.
When I was once getting changed in the Manchester United dressing room, right? When I was once getting changed in the Manchester United dressing room.
Did anybody know you were in there?
Oh, yes. I was taking a penalty competition at half-time. I scored a penalty.
Why did they let you change in the Man United dressing room?
Well, they didn't actually. It was the mascots dressing room.
I was going to say.
The point.
So it was the mascots dressing room.
It was the mascots.
I didn't know Man United had a mascot.
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, the Red Devil.
Really?
Yeah, the Red Devil.
Does he go around with a trident and everything?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Oh, yeah. But this is the point in my story, you see. So I was getting changed in the mascot's dressing room.
Yeah.
And then the mascot came in.
Yeah.
And he honestly had this massive row with an official at Old Trafford, and this is going back some years now, about the shape of his head. And the fact that he had asked for a new head and the head had arrived, but it was the wrong shape, he didn't like it, it made him look ugly. And, the official pointed out, but it's a mascot head, it's not your head.
Yeah, right.
Nobody can see through, nobody can see through the mascot's head and see your head.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. And this guy was going on and on about...
And did they only have, like, one guy, or do they have several people that kind of do it over the course of the
only
season?
had one guy on this
Have
day.
Everton got one?
Everton have the toffee lady.
Oh, right. So they have a woman then?
Yeah, but, I mean, she's not the mascot. She's the toffee lady.
Well, I don't know what the toffee lady is.
Well, she walks
Since
around...
you've never taken me to Everton.
She walks around in a lovely blue and white dress, right?
Yeah.
She has a bonnet on and all that.
Well, so that's her real head?
No, it's a real her. It's her. She has a bonnet on.
She's not a mascot.
And no, she's not a mascot, And she
She
carries...
sells toffees?
No, she throws them into the crowd, Everton toffees, because they're very, very famous. They're world famous. No, it's not
Well, if
dangerous
they throw
at
them
all.
back at the players.
No, they're ridiculous.
Well, they're hard, aren't they, toffees?
They're sweets that people suck and all that kind of stuff.
I would say that's that's very dangerous.
No, it's not. It's a tradition. Everton's been going on for over 100 years.
And haven't they got a proper mascot, though?
Well, yeah, I mean, they all have mascots and things like that.
What's the Everton mascot, then?
I'm telling you, the toffee lady is the symbol of, the non-playing staff there.
I'm asking you what the mascot is.
I'm telling you, it's the Everton lady, as far as I'm concerned.
Really?
You do have people who dress up in, like, clothes and all that kind of stuff.
Like what?
Because I did a darts competition with Phil the Power Taylor once at half-time.
Yeah.
And Everton mascot came
did
on.
you not get changed in the mascot's changing room that day?
No, because we were in suits, so didn't need
okay.
to. We got on the pitch. But anyway, look, the point of my story is,
What is the point of your
about the mascots.
Yeah.
That was the guy at Manchester United. He took himself very seriously. But also, remember, they have this mascots race every year, don't they?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, they do. And when they
Where?
have this mascots race, 2 or 3 mascots always fall out with each other and start punching each other.
Right.
And they're rolling around in their mascot uniforms, but because they're so much bigger than the bodies, it's farcical. So I don't know whether it's time to get rid of the mascots, to be honest.
I've never really liked the mascots.
No, I don't. I think they're a bit frightening to children.
Well, this one will frighten children. But according to a lot of people on social media, they've actually said that this will scare the bejesus out of children. David Shrigley is the Turner Prize nominated artist who's come up with it, right? So it's actually, they've got a new deal with a US investment firm called Kingsford Capital, which is meant to be worth about 200,000 quid. Right. So I bet you they paid this guy quite a few thousand to come up with a design for this thing.
Maybe they have. I
look at it.
don't know.
It's horrendous, isn't it?
It is utterly horrendous and frightening. It looks to me like almost a bit like the famous Scream painting, which was done by who?
Eh?
The Scream.
Edvard Munch. I told you this last week.
Yeah,
you can't even remember that.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
I should correct it. It's from Maggie from The Simpsons, they're saying it looks like.
Maggie?
Maggie from
Is
The
that
Simpsons.
the daughter?
Yeah, have you ever seen The Simpsons?
Yeah, I've seen The Simpsons. Yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, well, I as I say, I'm not into mascots. And the other thing is, right...
It's all a bit American, isn't it, really?
No, there's two...
Apparently Everton have got an elephant called Changi, the elephant. Which should be named after the beer, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. We have since they took on the beer from Thailand, which is, our sponsors. And yeah, OK, you can call it the mascot, but it hasn't been around as long as the toffee lady. Now, what I was going to say...
It's either the mascot or not the mascot.
No, now, listen, what I was going to say is this.
What were you going to say?
There are two definitions of mascots, right? One is the guy who dresses up in the strange uniform and walks around the edge and waves to the kids and all that.
Yeah.
But the other one, which clubs have now taken to try and make into a money-making exercise, are the kids that come out ahead of the team. So the mascot, the little kid wearing the Everton shirt.
Yeah.
In fact, Wayne Rooney did it once, believe it or not, as a boy for Everton. All
well,
this
I think
kind of stuff.
a lot of times they auction off, do
Well,
they
that's what
not,
I'm
for
saying.
charity?
I'm saying this can cost parents thousands of pounds now at some clubs, and that to me is really a pretty low down, I think, sort of thing for a club to do, because there's so much money now knocking around in football. I mean, so many millions, 100 million is about the average now for a not even a very good Premier League team, very good in terms of where they finish in the league, position. And to try and make money on it, like a few £1,000s a week or something like that, out of getting your kid nominated as the mascot to be led out by John Terry or something like that.
But it's nice to have kids involved in the football.
I think that's well, not too many of them. We don't want too many kids. I mean,
no, but what I was going to say, because you didn't let me finish the sentence, was that it used to be that, say, one child came out with each captain. Now it's like a kid with every
ridiculous.
player.
It's ridiculous.
And it's at every game now.
It's child abuse.
Well, it's not child abuse.
In my view, to drag those 22 kids...
Any kid doing that would be loving it, by the way.
No, it's just ridiculous. One kid with each captain is fine.
My son, who's a big Chelsea fan, would love nothing more than to be led out at Stamford Bridge.
Sure, but not 22 of them altogether.
Well, I've got 22 sons.
No, I know that, you idiot, but I mean 22 sons altogether. Because what I'm saying, or little girls, they have little girls do it, little boys do it. But what I'm saying is, Have you not seen the way it goes now? So the players come out and they hold the hand of the child. Some players look interested and take care of the child.
But it's going to be a day to remember for them, isn't it?
Well, for the kid, yeah, but for the players, some of them find it a nuisance. Now, what happens is, once the ceremonies are over, have you not seen what happens? The players line up for the official picture, and the kids are just told to push off.
Yeah.
They just run off the pitch. And
well, I'm sure they're told beforehand that's what's going to happen.
No, I think it's.
So you want to get rid of the kids coming out? You want to get rid of the mascots?
Well, I want to get rid of the. I want to get rid of the 22 kids.
I think they should get rid of the toffee lady because the idea that you can throw toffees at the players,
rubbish.
I think it's very dangerous.
Rubbish. Nobody's ever thrown.
Dangerous.
Nobody at Goodison Park's ever thrown an Everton mint at a player. Never.
Well, I think that's a very dangerous thing to do.
No,
you're not allowed to come in with certain things that you could throw. Well, why should they have toffees, hard toffees?
Because it's a tradition, and it's a massive tradition. And I remember the first game I ever went to at Goodison.
What if you get hit in the eye by one when she's throwing them into the crowd?
Wondering what... Well, nobody ever has been hit in the eye, so don't worry about it. Wondering what the lady in the blue dress was doing, and she was giving out the Everton toffees. It's a wonderful thing, wonderful part of the tradition of
perhaps one day you'll take me there and show me.
Well, I doubt it. What would I want to take you to Goodison Park for?
Well, because you're supposedly an Everton aficionado.
Yes.
And you take me to other football grounds.
Well, I have very high-level contacts at Everton, and I wouldn't take you anywhere near the people who run the club because I'd be embarrassed to have to admit that you're the guy I work with.
The last time you introduced me to that guy from Everton, you deliberately stitched me up.
No, you ran a million miles.
No, because you'd just been to the Brentford shop and bought me a Brentford hat and a Brentford scarf.
That's right.
And he looked at me like I was some kind of football hooligan.
Well, he invited me into the boardroom, said, Mike, come up for a drink. I said, OK. I said, and this is my mate, Mike Graham. And he said, right, OK, I'll see you later.
He got very shifty,
and retreated.
He got very shifty.
Apparently, Everton mascot is an elephant, which, unlike Porky, never forgets. And they sent me a picture of the Changi elephant. But he's a very recently acquired mascot. If you look at it, he's standing next to the toffee lady. You seen this picture?
No, I haven't, no.
Let me show you there. See the toffee lady standing next to the elephant?
No, because you've just changed it.
Oh, have I?
It's just disappeared.
Right, hang on. Right,
for heaven's sake, we've only got like a minute left.
Yeah, hang on. Here it is.
You're up against the clock here.
Yeah, look, see?
Yeah, let's have a look.
So you can see the elephant and you can see the toffee lady, OK?
Oh, yeah.
And toffee lady's got her bonnet on, as I said, right? Yeah.
It's disappeared again. How do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you get it out of that?
Well, why did you make it disappear?
I didn't. You made it disappear.
No, you idiot. Look what you've done here. Look, you've completely ruined my phone now, you...
Now, I've got to give you an update on the...
yeah, look, see?
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
See?
But the toffee lady looks a bit sinister to me.
No, she doesn't. That'd be silly. She looks like...
So who plays the part of the toffee lady, then?
Well, a local girl plays the part of the toffee lady, you fool. You know, who do you think plays it?
I've no idea.
I think they import Sophie Loren from Italy to play the toffee lady or something like that. Yeah, she's still very beautiful. No, it's a local girl, of course, and it's a great honour to become the Everton toffee lady, believe me.
Yeah.
Right,
now,
okay.
The current update on the retweets and favourites is 24 retweets for me, 18 favourites for you.
It's very close.
So it's quite close already.
And it's going to get closer.
Now, I'll tell you what we didn't do.
Right.
We don't have to decide tonight. We haven't yet decided on a quiz for this
yes,
week.
I have.
What do you mean you have?
Elvis Presley.
You want to be quizzed on Elvis Presley?
Elvis Presley.
Any particular reason?
Just because, when I hit on individuals, like subjects like Sweeney and like Columbo, I come out on top because I know my subject. So it's going to be Elvis Presley, OK?
Whatever it is, and I don't mind doing it on Elvis Presley, are you an expert on Elvis Presley, then?
I will be by Thursday. I would say I am a 95% expert at the moment. I could name you most of his hit records, most of his hit films. Yeah. I know who his wife was and why he got married and his daughter.
Why did he get married?
He got married because he wanted to. And what's wrong with that?
That won't be one of the questions, then.
That's a good enough reason to get married.
Why did Elvis get married?
Yeah, well, you think people have got to get married because they've got to be shotgun weddings or something like that. That's not the case.
I'm saying.
It's only the case in your
Anyway, what we'll be doing is we'll be putting you in a sealed booth to make sure that you don't have any access to your information device or any other papers or any other notes that you may have brought in with you.
Fine by me.
Because obviously we have to cut the cheating back.
I know things about Elvis Presley, actually, which you won't even consider.
Well, I don't put the questions together.
Hey?
I don't put the questions together.
You say that.
Anyway, it's been a delight as ever. I shall see you at 1 o'clock, at which point we will know the winner of Winners and Losers. At the moment, I'm nose in front, but it could change. You can vote openly until midnight. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes.
Look at the light! You worry too much about the time.
Yeah, no, I worry about it. Don't forget to follow the Two Mikes at the Two Mikes on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mikes TV.
Oh, I know he did. He did classics. Classic languages. Became an expert in Latin, ancient Greek.
Oh, there you go. That was useful.
Yeah, very useful if you go to ancient Greece, but... Lots of people give me free pints in pubs just because they like me being there.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.